manifesting through the pain. I reach for you like a fading ghost, like a vapor of smoke. You look back but didn't see me. One day you'll notice something missing, and you'll turn to look for me, and I'll be gone. Just a memory, a fleeting memory, forever chasing me like a haunted cemetery. Forever you'll be missing me. I'm manifesting through the pain, like a whisper lost in the rain. In the night I'd fading like a ghost train. You have only yourself to blame. An empty carriage, a carnival of pain, with ghosts standing in the rain. My memory, your pain. Just a memory, a fleeting memory, forever chasing me like a haunted cemetery. Forever you'll be missing me. I'm manifesting through the pain. In darkness you'll scream my name, but no one will hear. It's just you and your fear. I'll never be near. You'll imagine me, my hands touching, my ghost stories never told. The souls of the sea are now caressing me. Your final resting place, the ocean, the sea, the murder of man. No one will ever find them. Swirling and twirling, the warmth of the ocean, spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend, this could be the end. A mermaid's tale, your mortal so frail.
Pen to paper, a lost friend's letter. In darkness I travel, my eyes upon a house disheveled. Walking the halls, all the pain I see, paranoia and anxiety. Usher was telling me, paranoia rising, the house is hearing, influencing spirits haunting, the house of Usher is falling. I had caught how it can be, the house, the leaves it's possessing, books and songs to help calm, the words brought sounds from beyond, mental illness growing thin, something's under his skin, what is he hearing? Paranoia rising, the house is listening, influencing spirits haunting, the house of Usher is falling. Plans not fair, we left her there, a tomb cold, but for her it could not hold. Paranoia rising, the house is listening.
All right, folks. That was the House of Usher. That last song. It's one of Nelly's that she made for that album. We called it the Dead Poets. Pretty good stuff. She's working on some other ones. I told her I liked a couple of them from Yates. Go back and do those. So I don't know if she'll listen to me. I'm a nobody. I'm just here. And the people don't want to listen. I'm like, look, damn woman, you do what I say. Then I'm locked out of my bedroom.
Yeah. You do what I say, woman, I'll belt you.
Yeah. Damn Florida woman. First it's math and now this.
What, reading?
What next? You're going to try to vote in this next election? Silly people.
Gonna get the neighbors, we're gonna stone you.
The neighbors just come out with a bong. What, you thought we were barbarians? Speaking of bong, what's up, man?
Hey, how are you, buddy?
What's up, Dick? How you doing?
Excellent. Yourself?
I mean, I'm here.
Nice.
You know.
Well, it's good to see
Oh
you.
boy, a lot going on to do. Today was nuts. I had a dude. So last night we had a noise complaint at one of our jobs, one of our sites. It was nuts, right? And it's this lady who claims that she's got that somebody's got a large dog. This was freaky. So I talked to the management today about it, and they were like, nobody's been living there for 2 months. They renovated.
Really?
And she keeps complaining about there being a large dog up there. One of her neighbors verified that they saw a giant dog go in to the apartment on its own.
Crazy.
That's weird. So I thought, and I do this show, and so I told the management I would follow up with that. So tonight we have to go into that apartment and check it. And hopefully we don't get eaten by Dogman.
So let me tell you about that, because somebody at church tonight showed me these pictures they took of a balcony 3 stories above where they live.
Mhm.
And nobody lived there as well in that apartment. And he took what was obviously a picture of a mantis creature and a gray alien walking around on the balcony above the
Whoa.
yeah, it was crazy. The pictures, he got like 4 or 5 real good pictures of them.
Golly.
Yeah.
I just saw a creepy picture too. Somebody said, so we went out to the dealership out in Bee Caves because we had bought one of, well, we didn't buy it. We traded in one of our trucks for an SUV last year. And I just recently traded in like 3 vehicles or 4 vehicles, like for 1 vehicle
How
because,
many vehicles you got?
well, because of the patrol for the job.
Oh, of course, of
And
course.
so I was looking for because my partner got these Kias, and I told him, he's a boomer. I love him, but he's just and I said, these things in the summertime, what do they do, Anthony? Tell them what they do.
No, you can't idle them in the summertime. They overheat. They got these aluminum engine blocks that just crack and get warped.
It literally, they were melting, and the intake manifold was just falling apart. You're like, what in the heck? So.
Brutal.
And I told him, I said, for the same price, you could get these. Well, for a little bit more, you get these other vehicles. And he was paying through the nose for the insurance and everything. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So I went out and got some other vehicles, and insurance just kept going up and up. And so we decided to cut down on some of our vehicles. So I had traded in one of my personal vehicles for a vehicle that could be used for the security, right? But anyway, long story short, we go out there to the place because I couldn't get, they're a very busy dealership, and I couldn't get a hold of anybody to do because, folks, let me give you a piece of advice. If you buy a vehicle, this is very important. When you sell that vehicle, they're not going to tell you that if you bought a warranty for it, and if you bought a new vehicle, I would suggest you have a warranty. They're not going to tell you, hey, you have money here, because it's like $3 or $4 grand if you trade it in within like a year. Like we did. We kept it for a little less than a year. And so I decided to go and trade those in and get a cheaper vehicle, So I traded in 3 of them, three vehicles. So I had to go. I've said about the business of trying to get my warranties back, right? So when you sell a vehicle, cancel the warranty, you'll get $3,000 or $4,000 back. Most people don't do that. They don't follow up. They really don't. They'll trade a vehicle in, and they don't go and get their warranty refund. Now, it may take you 6 to 8 weeks for them to mail that thing, but I'm one of those people. I'm like a hound. I'm like the guy, instead of like, hey, your warranty's about to expire, I'm like, hey, I want my money for my warranty.
Yeah.
So like I call these people and harass them. So I drove out there, and I know those guys out there. One of them started telling us some weird stories and stuff, and he says, the finance guy's got a crazy ghost story. He had some stuff happen. I haven't gotten him from, his name is Raphael. I haven't gotten his pictures yet. He's supposed to email them to me. I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow. But he showed us on his Ring camera on his phone, there's this female voice that calls his son, and his son gets up and goes to the garage and talks to his mother because he thinks that it's her calling him. But you can tell, though, if it was a person calling his name from the garage, you could absolutely tell, like, okay, if this person was yelling, it would be a little more muffled. This sounded like somebody that was just right there. And he's got a like a baby, like a 6-month-old baby that's in the little rocker thing, you know? So the mother had just gone to the garage for a second. And so the little boy's like 7 years old. He thinks that, you know, you could see that he's laying there watching TV and he's watching his little baby sister or whatever. And she was just in the garage for a second. And so he thought that maybe, you know, mom needs my help. But the voice, you know, and I asked him about it. I asked Raphael, he says, the voice, that's not my wife's voice. But my son didn't know who it was. He thought maybe it's mom, you know. So he goes out to the garage and she's like, and then he comes back in. I mean, she's obviously not calling him. And then there's another one that he picked up because he's got the cameras in the house, you know. She keeps telling him weird stuff is happening. He's like, but it's not happening to me, but it's on camera. So he believes it. Because it's right there. So there's another one where she's cleaning the counter and she goes to move what was it, like a soap? Was it like a soap thing? What was it? I don't know exactly what it was.
She moved like a can of soda, and there was like
it was a soda can.
Yeah, and there was like a candle behind it,
and it moved.
Yeah, like it moved in sync with the can of soda.
And
that
then she
moved.
Stops and goes like, "What the heck?"
Yeah, and like you could see her checking, like to see like if there's like a string or something, because she's confused.
Yeah. And so this has been going on, and he's had a bunch of weird stuff happen. And the other guy, he told me some weird stuff. Like he gave me a couple of weird stories while we were there waiting for them to process this. And he listens to the show, and he was telling me a weird thing. His aunt. Get this, and I'm not gonna say the guy's name because I don't know if he wants us saying, you know, about his family. His aunt passed away recently, right? He tells us this is crazy, right? So he tells us that she was like a church goer. She was involved in the community in the church, and she was this good person who did all these things. She passes away. They go to the house and start moving the stuff out of the house. And he's a young guy. He's probably in his early 30s, not very old. And so she's probably, you know, my age or whatever. And he's like, dude, everybody thought, you know, this was a salt of the earth, good person, but they started pulling out all of this satanic crap out of her closets. I mean, he goes, it was everything you could imagine, books on spells and just demons and he's like, dude, it was crazy. He's like, everybody, and nobody had any clue that she was a witch and but a practicing. You know, who knows what kind of stuff she might have been doing? Like, who knows? Like, you really don't know. I remember years ago when I was a kid, and this is crazy because you're from Canada. My family had a friend that came down for the church, right? Because our church was like, you know, they were outreach or whatever. They would try to get other people to be involved. And there was a guy from not Toronto, Montreal. Who would come down. And I remember I was a kid, I was 6 or 7 years old. And I remember this was like one of the first Canadian people I'd ever met. And they talk kind of like you, you know. But I don't think he was from Montreal. They were from somewhere, but they lived in Montreal, which is the second largest city behind Toronto, right? Mm-hmm. And so I remember him saying that like in church, we were talking about Satanism and how prevalent it really is in our society. And then when I got a little older as a teenager, I went through my rebellious phase. I was into Metallica, Slayer, and all that. And I thought, man, this is this satanic panic. It's all a bunch of crap, you know, and that's what they were calling it, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, this stuff isn't really prevalent. Like it's just a bunch of kids that listen to heavy metal and they've turned it into something it's not. No, it really is. And I started to realize that now as I got older, like when I went into my 20s and I was around all these gangsters and I didn't realize like how many of them use brujeria or, you know, to do these things, right? Then I realized like everybody who's moving up in any kind of way is doing some kind of evil crap. You know, you start to see it. So anyway, this was back in the 80s and he was talking about this neighbor that they had, and they had all this weird paranormal stuff that was going on in their house. And we were kids, you know, but at the church we went to, they were just like, look at it, you know, they didn't care. They were just like, you know, you need to realize how, you know, the devil is under your bed. You know, they were like that. And they would show us these films of the end times and what it's going to be like when you're left behind during the rapture. Scare the crap out of you, right?
Rapture's tomorrow.
Yeah, the rapture is according to, it's tomorrow. Yeah. So okay. So before we get into that, so this that's a whole nother gift to unwrap there. So this is so weird, right? He tells us this story, which kind of parallels what this young man was saying over there at the dealership. That there was this neighbor, and they had these weird like shadows and stuff that were in their house that looked like demons. When the neighbor died, okay, she was an elderly woman who made cookies for the neighborhood. And all you get where I'm going with this. She was they go into her house, and she had like a pentagram drawn in chalk on the floor. She had spells casted that with targets had pictures of them, Polaroids of them, of the neighbors, and of different people at their church. And then she was targeting, and she was writing down on like this board everybody that she had targeted and how it worked or it didn't work. People that she had made sick, people that she had actually caused one guy to have a car wreck. I mean, it was bad, dude. And I'm sitting there. And so as a child, you're listening to this, and you're going like, dude, I was scared of all my neighbors after that. Like,
Yeah, that.
my neighbors that we had for like years when I was out in West Texas, the Shaws, she would make these oatmeal cookies when her granddaughters would come over, and I stopped eating them. I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
You probably put goat's blood in that.
No more of
For
that.
real.
Yeah. And I told her that. I said something about, well, I don't know what's in that. And so she told my mom, she's like, what's wrong with your son? You know? But I had been in their house and played all in their house, and so I didn't see anything weird, you know, but it scares the crap out of you because you really don't know. Now, in an apartment, it's amplified because these people are living above you,
Yeah.
they're living next to you.
On top of you.
The lady that's always complaining about the dogs. Now, here's the thing about that. Okay, so nobody's supposed to be living up there, but she's always complaining, and now she's still hearing it. And so the apartment manager people are like, well, we didn't really take it seriously, but one of the neighbors did say they saw a large dog, not going into it, coming out of the apartment. That's what it was. So that's something we got to deal with, and that's weird. So
Through the door?
yeah, like the door was open and it just kind of slinked out and went down the hallway.
Gotcha.
And they looked in. The neighbor didn't open the door because, you know, but they said, hello, your dog is out. But the people that used to live there had a medium-sized dog. This dog looked like, get this, the description of it given to us by the management, a wolf. I kid you not. And so when she's telling me this, she goes, I know this sounds stupid, you know, and I'm not really, it's a client. So I'm like at liberty to go, no, it doesn't. You know, this is completely normal for me. And I'll take it a step further. Watch my show. We talk about weird stuff all the time, you know. I'm not going to do that, you know. So I just listened to this lady. She's one of the assistants, right? She don't know. And she's just like, I don't know. Just check it out. And I said, okay, we'll check it out. But who knows? I mean, what if, you know, and like, you know, you don't really know who your neighbors are, who's living above you, who's living below you, who's living next to you, and what are they doing? What are they doing? I had a situation that was sort of similar to that when we had some Hondurans that were living above us. When they moved out, they had all kinds of weird stuff in their apartment. They left and they didn't, obviously they skipped out, didn't pay their rent, whatever. And they had a weird cooking pot with some sort of weird meat in it. And it was just, it looked like flaps of skin. Nobody knew what it was.
Because
That
it
was
was.
weird. It was back in 2000. What was that? 2009. That was an
Yeah, it was a while back.
Yeah, and it smelled weird. They were always cooking, and there were these weird bones in there. I never followed up with the police. I didn't have time. I was growing my company at that time, and it was growing, and we had a lot of work to do, and I was busy. And the management, I was friendly with the manager, real friendly with her. I was friendly with most of the managers right until the end there. We got this manager sucked. But yeah, and most of the people there, some people rented and some people it was a condo, like you buying it, whatever. And I had been there for years. And so at that point, I'd only lived there for a couple of years. And the people on the other side, like down catty corner to us, they had been living there since it had first been built. And they were telling me weird stories of people that had come and gone in the apartment across from them. And eventually those people that lived that moved in like after we first moved in, there was this elderly couple there, and they had been there for a few years. And then these other people moved in, and they were construction workers, and one of them stabbed the other one to death in the hallway.
Remember you said that, yeah.
Yeah, and so for years there was like a blood stain up on the. And I remember my brother having this girlfriend or whatever. She was this girl he was dating, and we were walking back to the apartment after going out or whatever, and she asked us what that was, and I was like, I looked at my brother, and brother's like, that's chocolate milk. Wanted to tell her, he's like, I don't know, somebody spilled some chocolate milk up there, some kids are playing. Because you don't want to tell somebody, like, hey, because it's not a bad place, but something bad happened there. And the people upstairs, those Hondurans, when they moved out, there was a fight, and one of them hit the other one with a machete and damn near cut his arm off. And so when the police came, they were getting evicted. They just moved out. I don't know what happened to them. But the management said there was like blood all over the floor. So every persons, groups of people that moved in after those Hondurans were up there reported weird stuff. They told us all kinds of weird stuff. And one guy, we got to know him pretty well. He was a rabid gun nut. He was just crazy about it. And he's like, I nearly had to shoot somebody. I thought somebody was in my apartment. I think this place is haunted. And I'm thinking, this guy's bedroom is right above mine. I don't want him shooting me in the middle of the night, because he sees a ghost. So yeah, weird stuff, man. Weird stuff. You don't know who you're living around.
We had a witch's coven that lived right across the street from us for like 10 or 12 years as well when we lived in Creemore.
Oh,
and then my dad very foolishly bought that house and moved into it after my mom died.
What?
He sold our house, our family house, to my brother, and then thought it would be great. So there was another lady who renovated the house, and the next door neighbor told me, he said, you wouldn't believe what was in that house. He goes, there was pentagrams all over the floor. There was pentagrams all over the wall. There was all sorts, like they ended up just leaving the house and leaving all of their satanic memorabilia everywhere. He said that all they did was paint it over. When the contractor came in to redo the house, all they did was just sort of paint it over and left it all. And that's the house that I saw, that my friend saw that doppelganger of me in. And you used to hear people walking around up on the top floor.
There was a house for sale. Still is. There was a house that was for sale right down the road, right down the street, on our street, about a block and a half up.
Mm-hmm. When that was owned by a hedge fund.
Yeah, and now it's owned by a hedge fund or whatever. But it was some younger people, they said, that lived there before. And the real estate agent, he was real cool about it. And he was just like, yeah, he was honest. Like he said, yeah, he goes, if it's between the house that you're looking at and that one, he goes, just stick with the one you got, because this one is going to take a lot of work, and they're putting the work into it, but they're willing to sell it cheaper if somebody's willing to take it over and whatever. And I thought about it, and I was like, well, we were going to do some remodeling on the house. We ended up getting, we did some remodeling. And I thought, well, how much cheaper? Like, how much are we looking at here? And it was a good $30,000 cheaper for just a little bit less square footage. But when we talked to the guy about it, he was very honest with us. He says, yeah, they did. There's one room they painted, what did he say? Like a picture
all
of
black.
All black. But there was another one. There was a sky or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they put pictures. Another one was like, they put pictures like they of like famous people. They had, like, an artist had drawn it, right?
Yeah.
He goes, and then there's one room that was just all black. And he goes, it's really weird. He goes, and it's kind of creepy. And he goes, I go in there and I feel weird, And I'm like, as soon as he told us all that, I said, I'm out. I'm good. I can deal with the sky and the pictures of, whatever, Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles or whatever. I said, but I'm not going to deal with somebody who might have been messing around painting something all black.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the hell they were doing in there.
You can pull the mic.
Well, we moved in and rented this house in Abbotsford, BC. I don't even know what year it was, maybe 10, 15 years ago, about 15 years ago.
Canada, right?
Yeah. It's one of the, it's just outside of Vancouver, like maybe 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved in there, the landlord and the real estate guy takes us down into the basement. And he's like, you see that little room over in the corner there? We're like, yeah. He goes, you wouldn't believe what I found in there when the last people moved out. He goes, they were obviously filming videos down there. He goes, I found, and it was like a black and white, like those little tile checkered floor.
Mhm.
But he said that it was like the kind of floor that you could wash real easy. And he said that they found all sorts of weird sex stuff in there, but he said that he thought there was some sort of something else going on in there, some sort of SRA or something like that going in there because of some other things that were found. And that they called the cops, and the cops just kind of were like, okay, whatever. But there was never any weird stuff happened in that house that I can think of. But yeah, he said there was something real weird going on in that room. And it was in the middle, like at the far end of like this real dingy, nasty basement. Like it was just there was nothing else in the basement, just a cement pad. And then they had their little weirdo room at the very end of the basement.
Little weirdo room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It
you
was,
never know what people are doing. You know,
No, for
it's just-
real.
Yeah, a guy I grew up with. You know, when I lived in Rockdale when I was a kid, I lived there for a while because my dad worked at the power plant, and I used to play at his house all the time. And come to find out that his parents were swingers. I didn't know that.
That's how
And that they were doing all kinds of weird stuff, you know, and I just had no clue. Like I was a kid and, you know, I'd become like I think I was in my late teens and one of my friends had told me about it. And I said, how do you know this? He goes, because I hooked up with his mom. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, you have no idea what they do, you know?
I don't want to sit down anywhere in that house.
Yeah. And I was like, I would go there and we'd be playing G.I. Joe and stuff. And, you know, in the garage and in the driveway.
Cobra Commander smells like fish.
Oh my God, don't say that, dude. That's a horrible thing to say. Don't say that. I've already gotten enough. I'm getting attacked enough as it is with and trying to do my algorithms, and you just did that. Come on now.
I just meant that they were eating fish sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No,
Perverted Canadians.
Perverted Canadian weird people.
there sure are.
Man. Yeah, and you know, we had Anna Choate come on, which she's going to come back on too, because she did the investigation at the Gacy property. I say property because the house is not there anymore, but there's another house built there. But she did the Fox Hollow Farms investigation where Herb Baumeister had killed those people, and I had somebody arguing with me that they, because I said there that there were the bones of 50 different people, and somebody was like, no, it wasn't 50, and they started arguing with me. But I went back and I reread that, and that's what it said, that there could be as many as 50 because of the different, you know, bones that they found, that it looks like it will be by the time they're done counting and doing it all, which should be sometime this year, and they're thinking that it was as many as 50 people that he had buried there. I got my own theories about that and why he wasn't looked at as hard as he should have been. You know.
Yeah, I've heard that one too.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it on here because I don't want to start a bunch of crap, but he had some connections, and he was
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and he was probably the interstate killer too. And there was somebody that was arguing that he wasn't the interstate killer, and I'm like, yes, he was. I'm almost positive he was. And he did a lot of crazy things. Like he was on camera, like, you know, talking about some squirrel that had been killed by the crew that was restriping the road. And he was acting all like, you know, sad about it, horrible it was. Meanwhile, he's like choking people to death and crushing them up and scattering them all over his ranch or his farm, whatever. And you're just sitting there going, like, God, this guy.
He's an animal rights activist.
Yeah, he really liked squirrels.
Probably a lot more than 50 too.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the key. You don't really know. How do we know how many people Gacy took out? You really don't know.
Yeah, because didn't he go to his grave not coming clean about it all?
Neither did Bundy.
What a bastard.
None of them do. None of them do. They like that. You know, there's something that's demonic on them, obviously, and it's taking pleasure in, because it's a vessel that they're using to destroy. And so they take great pleasure in not being, you know, caught or whatever. Well, look at the killing fields in Southeast Texas.
Yeah.
And, Yeah, I mean, they still haven't caught that guy,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's been at it for a while.
and the going theory is that he's not from that area, but he's probably it would have been a long time. He's been doing it for a long time, so he probably had stopped. By now maybe he's stopped because they haven't had any in a few years. But the theory is that he could have been former law enforcement. That's why he was able to get away with it.
Oh yeah.
And so so he just goes out to that area and does what he does, and probably doesn't live out there. That's why he didn't get caught.
Mm-hmm.
And then he leaves and then goes back to that.
He spends lots of time just driving out.
Yeah, lots of time just on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, but he knows the ins and outs, of what they look for and this and that. So that's why he's able to get away with it. So, that's really a weird thing. I interviewed somebody that lives in that area not too long ago, and it was over a Dogman encounter. And actually their encounter, though, they live in that area, but their encounter was near Kima. You know where Kima's at.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on that road right there, Galveston to Kima or whatever. And they saw something run across the road with like another. This thing was so big, it looked like a wolf carrying a coyote in its mouth. And it was like a full-grown coyote. The coyotes get big out here. And this thing was running across the road, and it looked like a wolf.
Oh.
It's crazy. Thank you for that person who, Art Tootin. Thank you for becoming a member. Become a member because Thursday's show will be dropped members only. And, of course, Tuesday, we have the Tuesday tomorrow. It's the Patreon. So, yeah, we're going to be doing the Patreon. I think tomorrow's episode is going to be about the Minotaur. That's what we're
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, a guy named Billy. And Billy gave us a story, a hell of a story. And so we've had it for a little while, and we just didn't know how or when we were going to put it out there. But we're going to tell that story. I thought about doing Carlos's story because I finally got it all together, and it wasn't anything like the missing pieces weren't all that elaborate, but I don't know that it would fit into 1 hour. What's up, Chaplain Tony? How you doing there, buddy?
Hello, pretty good.
What's
How
up,
you
man?
guys doing?
Oh, just shooting the breeze on a Monday night.
Well, I got a fancy new camera.
Oh, yeah? It looks very vibrant.
Well, it's a 4K.
Yeah, I like it. It's
Never
nice.
looked better.
Shows all my blemishes.
I don't want that. See, I don't want a fancy camera because then they'll see all of my blemishes.
You even got it blurring out the background and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Highfalutin.
So Lawrence Morgan says I really have
special
a.
effect going.
Yeah. Lawrence, why don't you jump on, Lawrence? Stop being afraid and jump on and tell us your Minotaur story. Because now, get this, we have not one, not two, but 3 Minotaur encounters. And it all started because we posted that we put the one up about the, was it the devil in Durango or whatever?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a Minotaur story. And that one was in like a junkyard. And then that's how I got Arturo, and his brother Albert to come and say, hey, this is what happened to us. And as one thing leads to another. That's how it works. I can tell you right now, man, the days of having to stalk groups to find stories are over because now I get enough people to send me enough stories to keep me going. And now I'm people complaining. They're like, I can't, I do the best I can, but yeah, it's really crazy. Somebody says only Minotaurs I've ever seen were on EverQuest. I hope to keep it that way. I've never seen one. I've never seen a centaur or Minotaur. At one point, we had 4 centaur stories, which, that's not a whole lot considering how many people see Dogman and Bigfoot. But each one of those stories, it was from an adult who saw it when they were a child.
Hmm.
And so that was what's weird. And they were very, like, they knew details, like very vivid details of these creatures.
Yeah,
And
that's
it ran the gamut too: white, black, Hispanic. There was one Hispanic guy, and then there was a Hispanic woman, and there was a white guy, and then a black guy. The one black guy gave us a story. He owned a farm. I think he still does, out in Dripping Springs. Said it happened to him when he was a child. Him and his sister. and we interviewed him. Very weird thing, like centaurs. Now we've collected a few others, and there was a guy who messaged me who used to work on a ranch out in West Texas, and claimed that a centaur had been harassing the horses out there, like going up to the stable, and that at one time they had it on video, and he was trying to talk to the ranch owners to get them to release the video. But the ranch owner, and maybe rightfully so, did not want that video going out because he didn't want people coming and trespassing and messing with his place. And I can tell you right now, that makes sense, because people in Texas, aliens could land and there could be a battle there, and they don't want you on their land.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll deal with it ourselves. We're not going to call
Yeah.
the authorities. We'll call the livestock, cops when we feel like it, when we're done dealing with these aliens. Like they're so committed to privacy.
Yeah.
When they divided up the Avery Ranch and the Steiner Ranch and all that property that was thousands of acres it was private land, but now it's subdivision, whatever. Man, they found all kinds of stuff out there. They found the bones of pioneers and natives, like they had been
secrets.
Yeah, they had been out there for a long time. There was a hole that I was told at Avery that was like they had been dumping stuff into that hole for a long time, and they were fishing out, all kinds of stuff. Just furniture and a truck, just like, I mean, in Texas, and Chaplain Tony can attest to this. I mean, there's a huge lot of land out here. And if you're not, it's off the beaten path. There's people who may not go there ever, like just ever. Like nobody in the modern times has been there. There are ranches around here going out toward Rockdale that nobody but the landowners go out to.
That's right. They found a cabin on Steiner Ranch that got grown up in a bunch of shrub and, like mesquite trees and stuff like that. They found a whole cabin in there.
Yeah.
And they restored it, and it kind of made a, I don't know, something for the tourists to come look at.
Out there near Joppa and Bertram area, I don't know if you know that area, but my dad's family, and my uncle, my great uncle, I loved him dearly. He was a great guy. I didn't meet him till I was like 7, but he was a really cool dude. And I deer hunted out there multiple times. I've only shot 2 deer in my life. Both were large bucks. And my dad's uncle, he's he would have been my dad's real mother, who died when he was 3. That would have been her brother. But he had 1,200 acres out there. Wow. And his neighbor had like 3,000 or something. And, we went out there one time because my cousin shot a buck just across the property line. And at that point right there where it was at, all there was a cattle guard right there. And the fence was down, so we went over onto that property, and man, my uncle told me, he says, don't ever cross that property line. He's like, that guy, he's like a Comanche. I was like, what do you mean? And he says, he has all that land, and he's probably not going to be around it, but if he's on that land and you're around, he'll shoot you. Mm-hmm. He's like, he knows me and, and my wife, but he don't care about all you kids out here, young people out here, So he was kind of worried about that. So one day he took the time to introduce me, because we were fishing from the bridge out there. And it was that old wooden bridge, and you go down off the side of it, and there's like a little pathway where you go. I don't know why it was there. It was dangerous as hell. You're like 50 feet up. And so let's just go walk down by the bridge, and we're stupid kids, and we're down there fishing. I was like 12. And my cousin was with me, and my great uncle comes down there, and it was right around Thanksgiving. But Thanksgiving in Texas can be cold as shit, or it can be just warm. It doesn't have any kind of rhyme or reason. So it was a little bit cool, but it wasn't, nothing. So my mom and dad, being the great parents that they are, I guess my uncle and my aunt too, they were just like, yeah, sure, we're eating dinner and whatever, talking, go fish, whatever. about 3 or 4 months later, like at Easter, my mom goes to that bridge and she's like, y'all were walking around down there fishing? She goes, oh, hell no. They're latchkey kids, man, and these are boomers. They don't care. And I said, when you didn't care at Thanksgiving, now you give a crap. So we were down there, though, fishing, and my uncle comes up and he honks the horn from his old pickup, and we grab our stuff, and there's this other old guy on horseback that's coming down the hill, going down toward the creek. And he introduces us. And this guy, he's an old cowboy. He looks at us. He kind of looks at us. He goes, I remember you. I remember you. And then he's like got an old 30-30, like rifle just stuck in his saddlebag right there. And he literally stops my cousin and says, hey, he's like, just be careful if you're ever going out on that property where the two properties meet. He goes, that's a very dangerous area. And he literally looks at us. He tells us, he's like, there's things out there you don't want to run into. So I get in the truck with Uncle Buck. Now, Uncle Buck always he believed in Bigfoot. I know he did. I remember we were out in Rockport one time at a family reunion, and he told a story of a wood booger. That was the first time I'd ever heard that term. He said, oh, them boys from Arkansas, they call them wood boogers. I was working out there years ago. And he said that, that this is a real thing. And these are Bigfoot, I guess, is what you would call them. And it didn't bother me. Like, I did not care. I would roam around in those woods out there. And then my great uncle SD that owned a bunch of land out near Rockdale, Thorndale, he would always tell me, I ain't going out there. He always had that cigar. I ain't going out there in that holler down there. You and old Donnie playing around with them bulls. Y'all going to get them bulls going to come after you. But they won't go to that holler down there because there's some creatures down there, monsters. I thought, this old cockeyed, stupid liar. Ain't nothing down there. We go down. I was about 8 years old one summer, and I was helping Aunt Cromwell shell peas, and I got bored. She'd be like, "Isn't this fun?" Trying to get me to do all the labor work. And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fun. I'm gonna go use the restroom." Of course, you're young, out in the country, middle of nowhere. You go use the restroom unless you got number 2. You're just gonna go in the back behind the house.
Yeah.
So I go back there and I'd be like, "I'm gonna run off," She'd come out there looking for me, Josh, and I'd just ignore her. I'd be hiding behind the old house. We had that old house back there with nothing but chicken coops and old furniture and stuff. I'd be hiding back there, me and my cousin Donnie, and then we'd sneak off. Gigging frogs. That's what we like to do, right? And there was this bull who was mean as hell. And if he sees you on one side of the tank, he'd start coming and doing his head, We would shoot at him with BB guns. Just antagonize. We were stupid. I followed Donnie. Donnie was 8 months older than me. I blame him. He was the leader. And so I was following orders. It didn't work at Nuremberg, but hey, I was following orders. And so Donnie would just laugh. And then when it got dry, that bull would just run across that edge of that tank real fast. And then you'd be like, oh, crap. So one time he nearly caught us, and we ran down to the holler down there. I get down there and I tell him, I said, Uncle SD and JC said not to be down here. What are you scared of? Bigfoot? Right when he said that, we hear this shriek, which looking back on it now, when I heard the sounds out of Copeland, I literally had the Cundiff on the phone and we were listening, and he said that sounds like some of the Bigfoot recordings, and he later had played them. And I told my wife when she was there, and we were, this was years later, and she was like, what the hell is that? I said, well, the prevailing theme is that's a Dogman. But that sounded like what we heard down in that holler. It didn't sound like the Bigfoot whoop. I knew what that was. But this sounded completely different. And I looked at him and I said, to hell with this. And that bull wouldn't go down in there. That bull just kind of wagging its tail and walked back away from us, and just kind of waited by a tree. So I walked down the creek bed that was dry at that time. It was in the summer. It was August. And I got up off of the little ridge there. There was like a big rock that jutted out. And I reached up and I jumped off of it, and I heard it again, and it echoed through that holler. And I said, what the freaking hell was that? I was so scared. I was shaking, and I just took off running. The bull didn't mess with me. The bull waited for Donnie. So when Donnie comes out, that bull goes towards him. So Donnie jumped off and went the other way and went all the way down across the pasture, across like a bunch of stuff, a maize field or whatever, and then ended up at JC's property. And then he's calling the house, and my cousin Muff was like, that little punk, he's down there at JC's. I'm going to go get him. So I get in the truck with him and we go down and we pick him up. And he's like, what was you boys doing? And of course he's going to tattle on us, right? I thought he was. I said, well, we were messing with the bull and we ended up down by the holler. And he says, what the hell are you doing down there? You don't want to be down there. That's a horrible place to be. Getting a call from work. Want to deal with that? Yeah. And so he goes, that's a horrible place to be. You could die down there. But he didn't go into detail of why or what, you know. He just said it was a spooky place. You're not supposed to be there and blah, blah, blah. And so years and years go by. And I remember my grandfather's cousin, Sis, we were at Thanksgiving, and this was in Taylor. And we were all at this Lutheran church because half my family's Lutheran. And, you know, the other half is Catholic or don't care, whatever. But we're there at the Lutheran church, and they were talking about this, whatever, when they were kids, you know, my dad's cousins. And he grew up with them like they were his brothers and sisters, like they were very close, right? So I call them my aunts and uncles. But he's got half brothers and sisters, too, from that Bertram area. And so I had a lot, like I interacted with a lot of people. If you took both of those families, you'd have 300 or 400 family members. I'm not even kidding. These country people had a lot of kids. Like all of my cousins and my aunts and uncles have 4 or 5 kids. I kid you not. There's none of them that have like just 1, 2 kids. They all have 4 or 5 kids. That's because they had ranches and farms. So you had a bunch of kids so they could help work the ranches and farms. And so, of course, my dad has a ton of cousins, and then my mom's Mexican. So Mexican Comanche, but of course, they all have a bunch of kids. So I have 2 huge sides of my family. They're both very big, a lot of people. So who knows where we're going to have Thanksgiving and Christmas, because there's so many different people that want to do stuff, you know. And my family's scattered all over Texas. But I remember we were sitting there and they were talking about when they were children. And I think it was Caroline was talking about being chased by a bull down into that holler and hearing those noises. And nobody had seen what was down there. But according to Uncle SD, who he got that land from his father, he's the one that partitioned it off. My great-grandfather had his piece, but he sold it to them and then moved out by Copeland and farmed until the day he died. And then they were farmers / ranchers, SD and JC. And JC lived down toward the bottom of the hill, and SD lived at the top of the hill. Huge tracts of land. I mean, I don't know how much it was, probably a few thousand acres. It was a lot. Some of it was farm and some of it was grazing. And they had pasture with probably, I'd say 200 head of cattle at any given time. I remember feeding them, and they were Black Angus as far as the eye could see. It was crazy. And it's kind of scary because you're up in that truck and they're just all around the truck, you know, like a sea of cattle, you know. And so you're grow up around that, you know. But I told my cousins, everybody said, nobody ever see this thing, this whatever it was that would holler down there? And they said, yeah. You know, they said Uncle Dewey or Grandpa Dewey, that was my great grandfather, claimed to have seen something down there, which prompted him, the story is, to sell his part of the land and not he didn't want to farm out there. So he sold it, and his tract was very lush. And he was the oldest, and his dad, his, you know, whatever, he was very terrified of that area. Of course, when we talked about the Bigfoot encounters that went on with the McCullough family, I think it was because of those particular creatures. What he saw looked like something between an ape and a man, and it chased him on horseback, and he would never go down into that holler. And he said they had shot at these things, according to him. This is what my great uncles and aunts had told me. But as long as you stayed out of their area, they wouldn't mess with you. So they never drove through there to go from one property to the next, even though it was a shorter way. And so when I was a kid, I asked my grandfather, I said, why don't we just drive through the pasture? Why do we go all the way around onto the gravel road, onto the county road to JC's ranch? And my grandpa said, nah, we don't go down, we don't ride down there. We don't mess around on it. So it's really crazy. And my grandfather believed in all of that, but he never really talked about it much. But if it came up, he would be very frank and honest with you. He believed in Dogman. You know, he believed in it. He talked about these coyotes that could run around their hind legs when he lived out in Marfa. He had a little ranch out there, about 15 acres. And I remember being out there and him having the opportunity to buy some of that property in Thorndale. He didn't want to live out there. He said, I don't want to live out there. He said, I don't want to be fighting with whatever's out there. And as a kid, I was young. I thought he was talking about coyotes and these coy wolves, whatever. But that's not what was predating on these things. There was something else. These cattle would be taken, and then they would be found. Their carcasses would be found, mutilated on the banks of that creek, which would fill up, anytime it rained.
And Brushy Creek.
Brushy Creek, yeah, absolutely, yeah. You know it. Yeah, Brushy Creek. And so it was the east end of Brushy Creek where it kind of peters out and becomes Salty Creek. And then it becomes, forgot the name of it. It becomes something else. And then it kind of peters out. But it would get full of water. It would fill up because everything around there would run off into it. And if it rained, it'd be fun to play in there, but I nearly drowned in there. And I got, probably pushed about a half mile off of where I was supposed to be, and I was walking through the pasture with barefoot like an idiot, going through stickers and briars. But I remember, just as a kid, being told these stories, and so they're very prevalent all over Central Texas. People will tell you, if these are ranchers being honest and they've been on this land for a long time, they always have a story to tell. They do, because they're the only ones that are seeing what's on their property. And so I've talked to multiple farmers and ranchers around the San Gabriel. The guy whose family I saw the Dogman with, they saw a ton of weird stuff out there near the San Gabriel, right there on the San Gabriel. And his uncle is the pastor of the San Gabriel church out there, the Baptist church. And they had a farm out there for a long time. And some of his relatives had told me that and I talked about it on Dogman Encounters. They had seen these things just walking across the pasture, and they took shots at them because they were taking their cattle. They were taking their cows. And most of the people in that area between Taylor and Rockdale, I'd say all the way down 79, go all the way past Hearn, all that. They're farmers / ranchers. There's tracts of farmland, but a lot of really good grazing land. So around Taylor, there's more farm with some ranch. And then when you get to Rockdale, it's more ranch with some farm. Let's put it that way, because the terrain changes. But there's a lot of lush pasture out there, grazing land.
Hey, Wolf?
All of my family had both farms and ranches.
Do you think it makes a difference what you hit these things with? Like if you hit them with like a 300 Win Mag or a 50 BMG or something like that, do you think it'd make a difference?
Here's the thing. What do you do with one of these creatures when you hit it with something? And like last night's story, we were talking about, what do you do? You have this guy that hit one with a 30-30, and the other kid had a 30-06 or a 6.5. Those are high-powered weapons, but what do you do? That story came out of Panola County,
I'd vote for a 45-70.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
I have a theory that the 45-70 round was actually created for these things.
Why do you say that?
I just have a sneaking suspicion. And a lot of these old muskets that they have too, where it's like a 75 caliber or like an 86 caliber. Like, what do you don't need that for a man. That's like a cannon.
Well,
what are you encountering in the woods that you would need that other than like
charging buffalo?
Yeah, okay, but I get it. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Is it literally made for Bigfoot? Like,
possibly. Another thing too about Texas, and if you're talking about Texas, and Tony can attest to this, the Longhorns were wild here. They roamed wild, and they were violent. People don't realize how those big horns, they're not just for looks. They're not good for meat. I can tell you that. They're kind of rangy, and the meat
survived on the range, though.
Yeah. So those things have these big old horns, and they had to be tough. They were surrounded by predators and buffalo, and I would say the only thing that and they are prolific breeders. I mean, they manage to survive, but brucellosis is a very real thing that can take out cows and buffalo real quick. And it would spread periodically, and it wiped out some of the longhorns. But at one time, there were as many longhorns as there were buffalo because they had just spread everywhere. And they were brought by the Spanish. And the reason that they were brought here was because they could survive. They could survive in the heat. And I can tell you this, bulls in particular are just some of the meanest. I mean, just absolute meanest animals you would ever. They're just nasty. I mean, dude, they're never in a good mood for very long. I know people who've raised them. I had a friend who had a Corianti bull, and he raised them, and it was young, and he gets mad. He gets mad. That's it. There's nothing gonna, and if you're on horseback, and a buffalo decides that it's going to just turn on you, or a longhorn is going to turn on you, guess what? Your horse is dead. That horse can turn and try to kick. Horses are tough animals, but unless you got some kind of really cantankerous stallion that can handle your weight and then turn and kick the shit out of one of these animals, which they can do, they're probably going to be gored to death. Longhorns were notorious for coming out of the bush and just horning the shit out of guys on horseback. And they're not stupid. They're a pretty smart animal too, considering a lot of cattle are kind of dumb. I've had some real dumb cows. They're just not smart. They'll go stand in the road and get hit by a car. I'm not even joking. If you said, well, why do you got to have them in a pen? Well, because they're going to look at the grass over there and they're going to walk across the highway to go eat it. The deer are smarter than they are, and deer are not very smart. And I'm sorry, people that love animals, I love animals, but there are some that just are not very intelligent. Now, I've had some bulls, though, that were really smart because they're the clever ones. They got to figure out how to mate with all these cows. These animals, being the way that they are very aggressive, you would probably need a very high-powered weapon to shoot them if they come out at you. Chris, the cult thieves, yeah. But you look at this from the mindset of like somebody from the 1870s. Let's go back in time and look at the average cowboy. He's out there on the range. He's going to need a high-powered gun, something, the long colt. That's what I think it is. And I think it was when you have to shoot a bushwhacker or a horse thief or a cattle thief, rustlers, you don't want to hit them and maybe they die, maybe they don't. You want to hit them in the heart and make it go away. The problem goes away. And I think that's what it was for. I think it was that. And if somebody said 10 millimeter Glock, well, yeah, but that's years later. That wasn't invented at that time. You're talking about a 6-shot, and I have a couple of them, and you got to take that little, and stick them in the bullets one at a time. There's no speed loader for that thing. And it's double action. You got to kick and then, you have to have something that's going to have stopping power. And what if you encounter something that's not a human? And I don't mean cryptids. I mean like a bull that's this out of control, or a bison, or a longhorn. And if you were a cattle person, like say you work for the 66, right? The Burnett family, say that you work for them, you're a cow puncher. Part of your job would be to keep foreign cattle, loose cattle, in particular longhorns, away from your cows. Also, bison, you don't want them around your cows. If they come too close, you probably have to shoot them. Being that you can't always just reach out and grab your 30-30 out of the saddlebag, you might have to just have a firearm to just boom and maybe get one and get them to back off because of brucellosis and things like that. There's hoof and mouth disease and all kinds of shit that can. You don't want to mix your herd. That's something that people who never work cows, they don't understand. They don't grasp that. You don't want someone else's brand being around yours. You know what yours have. You don't know. And when they mix, there's all kinds of things that could happen. they could start following, going on to someone else's property, and that person may not be an honest person. They may try to warp your brand and take, oh, these are mine. Especially when there were no fences back then.
There we
So,
go.
yeah,
That's
there you go.
45 Colt.
Long Colt.
45 70
Mhm.
right there.
Big old bullets.
The case is 2 inches on those.
Yeah.
325 grain projectile.
Nice. Yeah, those are thumpers, eh?
Mhm.
Yeah. And a 45 long Colt loaded up for a Ruger or Marlin has got more horsepower than a 44 mag
Let's see, this is a 45.
ACP.
Yeah, that's an ACP. That is for a semi-auto. So, I'm not going to pull my thing out here because then somebody will probably report me or something. But yeah, that's what I got right here. You know, and I got a 357 too. So make my day. But you know, it's Texas. It is what it is.
Well,
Fried six, what you got going on?
Yeah.
Where's Lawrence?
I don't know. I guess Lawrence is scared.
He's too shy.
He's too shy. He don't want to tell his story. He's got all these stories he won't tell us.
Still figuring out the
Everyone
audio.
needs to pester Lawrence in the
Fry, what's
in the
going on?
chat.
Figuring out the audio real quick.
Okay, we'll give you a chance here. Yeah, that's big difference between a 45 long Colt and people don't realize that those, you know, double action guns have the 45 long Colt, and then there's the 45 ACP, which is for the semi-auto.
Dick, have they gotten rid of most of the handguns in Canada? You can just have a rifle.
Oh
a
yeah.
shotgun now?
They haven't started taking them all yet off the people that have, like in Canada, you have a non-restricted and a restricted license, and the restricted is for the handguns, and you're only allowed to bring them to the range. You're only allowed to go from your house to the range, I guess. I believe is the rule with them. And, they stopped that a long time ago, that you can't even bring them out. Can't even bring them out anymore, and they're talking about starting to round up on them real soon. So.
T-Max says shooting 50 caliber handguns. I've never shot a 50 caliber handgun in my life. Never.
I've seen one of those. They're pretty freaking gnarly.
Can you imagine the kickback on that thing?
Yeah. You got to.
My nephew's got one.
What'd you say, Tony?
I said my nephew has one. He's got a Smith & Wesson 500, and he says that, you know, he'll only shoot it 4 or 5 times. It just got too much recoil.
Mm-hmm. And you got to be real careful with the ammo too. Like I think it's a 300, like a 300 black. You can use the same ammo as an AR, but if you put it in the AR, like you can use one. I think you can use the AR ammo in the 300, right? But if you put the 300 in the AR,
No.
or is it the? Is it
Are you
the
thinking
opposite?
about 5.56 and 2.23?
No, I'm talking about the.
Well, see, one of them's a 30 caliber,
Yeah,
and the other
it'll fit. The 300 black will fit, but if you do, it'll blow up the barrel. Yeah, it'll. Because I've seen people do dumb things. Like I saw a guy on YouTube like talking about, you know, the different types of ammo, and he actually demonstrated it. And I was like, I wouldn't do that for $1 million. You know, it's like
300 Blackout was made from 223 cases. They cut them down and then re-necked them for 30 caliber.
Yeah.
My next door neighbor does that.
Your signal light is like.
Yeah, Fry, your signal light's just going crazy there.
Yeah, I'm driving. That's why my camera's not on. You're able to hear me, correct?
We can hear you.
All right. Just making sure if you're able to.
Yeah, there's T-Max says it there. You can switch at 223 and 5.56. The thing is, though, there's a lot of different ammo that you can do that with. Like the 7.62, you know, there's different types of things you can do with it. But if you put it into certain guns, it might work a couple times, but then it won't. And when it doesn't and it jams up in there, you're in trouble. And people do that all the time. They make mistakes, you know, and that's the hard thing when you get a bunch of different types of firearms. The ammo becomes a problem. And like I have a 5.7, right? I mean, but the ammo is so damn expensive. Like, what is the point? It's just it's just like you have all these different types of ammo you have to keep up with. But the most abundant ammo you're going to find is going to be a 9mm. I would say 38's pretty popular too. Lawrence, what's going on, Lawrence Morgan?
Yeah.
There we go.
What's up? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Hold on one second, though. We got Frylock over here. Fry, are you going to tell us something, or did you just want to be up on the chat?
I'm trying to decide what I want to tell you first. I have a bunch of experience in this area. I'm not sure why so much stuff has happened. There's all kinds of stuff.
Well, do you want to let Lawrence tell one, and then you decide what you want to tell, and you can go next, or do you have what you want to talk?
Go for it. Go for it. I'm driving anyway, so
okay.
He can go first.
All right. So, Lawrence, tell us what's going on here.
Well, you said you were going to do that Minotaur story tomorrow, and I had an experience with one. I was like 15. I lived in Randolph, Massachusetts, and we were playing Jailbreak. It was my buddy's birthday. And there was like we were at the senior center. This place was like where the old folks go and like do activities and stuff, Mm-hmm. And there was like some woods back there, so we always hung out there, It was like our spot. And there was a little kind of like a rock and a little clearing, but like I don't know, you could see to the next street over. It wasn't like thick woods. It was just like a small patch of woods, and it was behind this this home for people that had like disabilities and stuff, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I was with my buddy Sean. He was a track star, and we're sitting there just like talking, shooting shit, whatever. And all of a sudden, I hear the worst noise I ever heard in my entire life. Like, it made the best description I can give you. It literally made my blood like curdle. Like I was like, what the hell is that? I turn, I look over, I see this thing like just coming up, just raising up in silhouette. Like, my jaw is like dropping as I see this thing. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at because it's dark, This thing just raises up as this noise is happening. This like roar. I guess it was a roar. I don't know. I don't know if this thing came out of the ground or if it came out of a portal or what, but it just came out of like nowhere, and I could see it in silhouette. It had ram's horns that like went under. It was like how they go under. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Like a ram
curve. Yeah. Curve.
It had, I don't know if it was a bull. It must have been a bull face, but it kind of was like long, like a horse. Mm-hmm. And it had fur all over the top. The top of his body was like a man. It had shoulders, arms. You could see fur on it, but you could see the muscle underneath it. This thing was the most jacked thing I ever saw in my life, and it was dark, and you could still see how ridiculously muscled this thing was. And I would say it was probably about 5 foot wide. Okay. I think it was about at least 14 feet tall when it finally raised up, and I saw its legs. Its legs were like, first they like went pretty much like you would see a mythological creature. It had like fur. I didn't see any genitalia or anything, but it was definitely a man. And then it had the inverted kneecaps. And very skinny, tiny legs after that. But he had huge, thick thighs. And then the backwards kneecap and the legs, like a goat legs. And this thing, it just didn't look at me. It stomped through the woods. I could feel the ground shaking. I was probably like, I don't know, 25 yards away from this thing or something. I don't know. Wasn't that far away from it. But it stomped through the woods and it snapped. It was snapping trees with its shoulders, just walking through, just snapping trees like toothpicks. And the ground was shaking like it was freaking, Jurassic Park or something.
How old
And
were you?
all this time, I'm thinking my friend is next to me, my friend Sean. I go like to put my hand next to his chest. I'm like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? He's not there. He had taken off when he heard the friggin' sound. So I'm standing there by myself, and I just took off at that point. You know what I mean? But I could literally, you could feel the evil coming off of this thing, like radiating off of it. You could feel it. It was horrible. It was pretty much the worst thing ever.
How old were you?
I was 15.
15. And so, but this thing had like ram horns, huh? It didn't have like
Yeah.
bull horns.
Yeah, it had like a bull face, but like ram's horns.
Yeah, that's not an uncommon description of Goatman. Some people will say it's a Goatman, but it looks like that, and some of these things look like a mountain sheep. Like, it's weird. They have those curved horns.
Yeah, man. I would say that thing was a minotaur. Like I play video games and stuff like that. I would have classified that thing as a minotaur. It was bad. I have a lot of other stuff that's happened to me too, but I'll let the other guy talk.
What year was that happened to you?
I want to say like 97.
97.
Something like that.
Did it have the muscle where it was like halfway up its head, like the shoulders where it looked like it was halfway up its head?
Yeah, it
Shoulder
didn't.
muscles?
I didn't see like a neck or anything. It was just muscle.
Yeah.
It was as wide as I am tall, easily.
Yeah, that's
Shell Bay
crazy.
says like a pre-flood Nephilim. Yeah, that does sound kind of like something like that.
But
Don't
like,
go
where the hell
anywhere.
did it come from? It popped up like friggin' Bugs Bunny on his way to Albuquerque. You know what I mean?
Don't go anywhere, Lawrence. We're gonna come back to that. Fry, what do you have for us? And then we'll get to you, Matt.
Well, when I was adopted, I was 7. I was forced to take care of like a kennel full of dogs, kind of like Labrador retrievers. And the experiences outside at night, those guys were very interesting because we would hear a bunch of movement towards the edge where the light doesn't reach. There was like large, loud movements consistently. And every time we have these floodlights on, they never step into the light. One time I was outside, at night, but the lights did go off. But somebody turned the lights on immediately afterwards. I kind of saw like a solid black, shadowy figure. Kind of, it was like on all fours. It was very fast. Just kind of ran past me when the light came on. It didn't make any noise when it was moving either. But it was very tall. A bit taller than a deer. Really thin. Kind of see its whiskers. I'm not sure exactly what that would have been.
So I'm kind of having a hard time understanding you because you sound like you're kind of far away. But this thing looked like a deer. Is that what you said?
It kind of, but it was solid black. Even when the light was hitting it, you couldn't make out what it was, and it was way too fast to be a deer.
That's another creature that seems to be a little more common now. I don't think that people are just seeing it more often. I think it's just people are talking about it more because there was a guy, I forgot his name now. He was on our show one time, and then he was on this other guy's show. I thought it was funny. That guy didn't like me at all, and he kept bringing up Mark De Leon. That was his name. And he saw 3 of these out near Mathis, and I interviewed the guy, and he gave me permission to use his story, but he was on this other guy's show that couldn't stand us, and he kept bringing me up in my research, and every time he'd say, the guy would groan. It was a not deer, and he's like, yeah, well, Josh Turner's not the only person that knows about these things, and he's just like, yeah, but he's the most knowledgeable, and he's on this guy's show. Dude, The dude wanted to shit a brick. But those knot deer, they've been around for a long time. I mean, like when I get reports now, sometimes people are telling me there was one near Elgin, Illinois. Somebody had told me about a knot deer that jumped out in front of their vehicle and it was moving like on two legs. And his wife just screamed so bad. He goes, the scream almost made us wreck. The interesting thing about that, though, it happened in 1985. So, I mean, they've been around for a long time.
That was a lot of
Sorry, I don't
noise.
know what that is. Are you getting hail on your vehicle there?
You're gonna have to mute
It's
that.
raining very hard.
Oh,
I do
pull over. You don't be
apologize.
driving while you're raining. Just pull over.
Would you mind muting your mic until you're ready to speak? Because it's like really loud.
Wow, there's a whole horde of deer over here. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Let me mute myself real quick.
I remember one time I was driving. I was trying to run errands, and I was interviewing this lady. And I'll never forget. It just started pouring rain. And I said, look, I have to pull over. So I pulled into like this car wash to finish talking to this person, and it just kept raining. And I think Nellie was next to me. She was like on her phone or something, and I was trying to talk to this person, getting their encounter, and we couldn't get the reception. Like, I guess the car wash was so well, whatever, and the way it was angled. So I said, well, I'm going to have to call you back. And then a couple days later, it didn't rain for like 2 or 3 days. Right when we start talking again, it starts raining. Kid you not. And I was like going into the Target, and I told my wife, well, go ahead and go into the Target. I got to talk to this person. So I kept talking, and then it just started raining again. And she goes, has it just been raining for days? I said, no, just when you talked to me last time and today. Can you believe that? It was the same thing. And it was about a black cat that moved around on two legs. Anyway, I remember that. I thought that was crazy. I was like, dude, what are the odds? But it would happen,
They see the knot deer a lot on the Indian reserves up here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last person that gave me one, it was a Menominee person that gave me the story. I think that one guy we interviewed too, he was what was Craig? What was he? He was on the show. He was Ojibwe, and he talked about that. And I remember, I don't know if he talked about it off camera or on the show or not, but he's an Ojibwe. And we've interviewed a lot of natives. That's one thing I'm very proud of, is that a lot of natives in this field who won't even talk to other people. They won't even give them the time of day. They've talked to me. And a lot of them have told me, and I'm going to brag, I'm going to tell you this, that they think that I'm on the right path. I do believe that we are. We are on the right path. We're getting to, the root of a lot of these things, where a lot of people, they'll talk about it, but they're not going to give you any kind of knowledgeable, well-rounded, researched opinion on it. You know what I mean? So Matt says, Matt Lowe, Midnight Smoker. What's going on, Matt? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me okay, guys?
Sounds great.
This is my comment. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while about all this stuff. I'm a long-time viewer, first-time caller.
Mm-hmm.
I've had these experiences since I was a child in Appalachia when we didn't know what this stuff was. But I made peace with these things finally. I've had 2 quick experiences I'll tell you about really quick with concerning the Bigfoot, if you got a second.
Yeah.
Okay, about
hold on one second there. Harpin Blues, I see you. Fry 6, I see you. We'll bring you back on as soon as Matt's done with it. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry for interrupting.
A little bit about my background. I spent 8 years. I'm a U.S. infantry combat veteran, and I retired 3 years ago from the Defense Department. I was a civilian logistical officer. I lived in Canada for 22 years. And as part of my retirement, the part of my retirement, I sell military surplus. So both these happened on the way to get surplus. I was heading to Pennsylvania. You go past Flatwoods, West Virginia, which Flatwoods Monster. And then past Morgantown, there's the first rest stop you come to. This is about 2 years ago in October. And I was the only one there at 3 o'clock in the morning. The truckers at the bottom, I was at the top. And I've had a Sasquatch experience before, but this is recent. About 10 minutes into my sleep, I was woken by the loudest wolf I ever heard behind that rest stop. And it was like, "Ow!" But at the end of that "ow," it went to a down an octave, up an octave in a whoop. I was like, that's a effing Sasquatch. And it was like, sent me chills to the bone. I could not start my truck fast enough to get out of that rest stop. I was like shaking with the keys in there trying to get out. So I'll never go back to that rest stop again. And fast forward the next year, I said in my head, because what happened to me as a kid, it's just too long to go into. But I was going through Blue Ridge, Georgia. This is like last year about this time. I was heading to Fort Benning. On my GPS pulled me to a back road. I don't know why, but it did. I guess to get around Atlanta. And I was saying in my head, like, hey, Sabe, man, look, it's not my fault. You know, we're all in this, you know, we was all screwed by the star people. I said, it's not my fault. Just kind of playing chat in my head. I promise you, in my headlights up ahead, a 9-foot Sasquatch came out in the road, black and pepper hair, neck like a linebacker, conical head. He didn't look back, but he kind of turned his whole body back. He just kind of like almost laughed at me, went right back in the tree line. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a Sasquatch. And I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel shook up. I felt very calm with the experience. And it's like the first time that's happened. And I guess it understood what I was saying, that I'm not here to harm you. On the way back, my GPS took me the same direction. I see this big billboard, Bigfoot Museum, Sasquatch Encounter, Blue Ridge. There was a Sasquatch museum not even a mile from that encounter. So I'm telling my buddy, we're on the phone talking about it. He's a Marine. He's ex-Marine. He goes, I will not believe it till I see one, because we're in the same business, Army surplus. I won't believe it till I see it. You can't convince me. He calls me 2 hours later. He goes, dude, you won't believe what happened. I said, what? He goes, out of 1,000 people on eBay, the Bigfoot Experience Museum just made a big order off me for camping supply. He goes, we were just talking about him. I said, you're in the circle. I said, that's how these things work. It's weird in the circle. You know, so you're going to see one before long because you're marked out. But that's a short story. But these things, when I was little in Appalachia, I had a close encounter with a UFO. Now, back in the 70s, we didn't have no cable TV. We had no internet. I was raised religious. No one ever told me. We had 2 channels that we couldn't watch. We were playing outside. So when I had the encounter, I tried to tell my parents, and they knew what it was. They were just like, no, that's not what you saw. You know, that's not what you saw. But I did, because, man, this is hard to say. I've held this shit in for so long, man. It was like in October, of course. It's always in October. We had a really bad lightning storm, and it was just me, my mother, and my sister was at the house. And it looked like lightning bounced off all 4 corners of my sister's bedpan. 70 safe, you know. My mom grabs her, runs in the back room. I thought I heard like an airplane. I looked out the window, and there's this large, classic 1950s looking UFO hovering above the house of the neighbors. Had red, green, and blue lights going one way, and it was going the other, and it was kind of at a wobble angle underneath the clouds, almost like lightning was dancing off the top of it. I didn't know what it was. I watched about 2 or 3 minutes, but after that, I'd have all my life had these really weird dreams after that encounter, and in these dreams, I was encountering what I call the cave people. I thought it was cavemen. There's Sasquatch. I had this dream about aliens manipulating Sasquatch to do manual labor. Now, how as a 5-year-old in Appalachia, I don't even know what the hell I was talking about. And I think that marked me, that anyone that's had a close encounter with the UFO or has been chipped, that these Sasquatch will automatically categorize you, guilt by association, and give you a bad vibe or a bad experience. I would love to know the percentage of the people that's had close encounters, have really bad experiences with these creatures, or people, I should say. But it took years for me to get over, because every time I'd be in the woods and when these things would be near, I'm a combat vet. Every hair on your body stands up. You just want to just get out of there and run. It's just like, go, leave. Because I had my first experience as a child in the Daniel Boone National Forest near Tater Knob Fire Tower. And since 2010, you cannot go near that fire tower. By group or organization, you will get fined and imprisoned. And it says group or organization not allowed in that whole area up there. So I don't know, man. there's something to all this, but that's definitely plagued me all my life. That's all I gotta say. I just want to get that off my chest a little.
Do you think?
Well,
Do you think you got abducted?
I know I did.
Yeah, me too.
The dream I had was I walked back through my house and my closet door was black, kind of like one of those flipped computer screens, but we don't know what it was. But like flickering black light. And next thing I know, I was on a platform. 5-year-old Appalachia kid that never had internet or none of this stuff. I dreamed, reoccurring dream, I was on a platform with a tall blue alien beside me with long arms, segmented body, like not like scaled, but like a bird's foot. And it was making his arm gesture, and down below was 2 large Aztec-looking pyramids, and they were constructed. And the Sasquatches was doing the manual labor for these pyramids, and the thing was trying to tell me that they manipulated them to do this.
That's amazing.
And they were wearing like a gray jumpsuit, cut in a V, with like a green-yellow reflective belt around the middle, and there was like maybe 50 of them. How the hell would a 5-year-old kid get that in his mind that's never had any influence with any of this stuff, you know? And that dream has followed me all of my life. I'll have that dream.
Obviously, you wouldn't. I had something happen to me when I was 5 too. When I was 5 years old in Randolph, I had classic gray basically knock on my window at like, I don't know what time, probably 3 o'clock in the morning or something. But I didn't even know what it was. I woke up the next morning. I told my mother that I had seen my cousin. The only thing that I could equate it to was I saw my cousin in a ski mask, like maybe two weeks earlier or something like that. Mom didn't know what the hell I was talking about, you know? And then later on, I saw like an episode of Unsolved Mysteries or something when they had like the alien abduction episode. And I was like, that's what I saw. The eyes is what I remember is absolutely horrible.
You don't know. Has anybody ever had an experience like an owl?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I haven't, like, I personally, no, I'm not Lechusa, but my cousin saw the Lechusa when he was young, and then subsequently he went and lived in the Wind River Reservation for 4 years with a Shoshone woman. And he's been on the show, and we talked about a lot of his experiences. We never got to go back and finish. He wanted to do a part 3, but he's been ill. He's got liver disease, but he yeah, there was a lot left on the bone there, and he was talking about the clown. Here's a weird thing. We're talking about what you were saying, Matt, and I wanted to say this about synchronicities. I don't believe in coincidences. So here's what happened to me just last Thursday. Okay, I was still sick with this COVID, whatever, but and I'm just getting over it. I'm trying to get over it. But this guy messages me. His name's Trey. And so for some reason, I guess my eyes were bleary or whatever. He started talking about, he wanted to talk to me about something, you know, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something about a clown or something. I can't remember what exactly how he worded it. I just remember the word clown in there, and I was kind of looking through my messages. And so I messaged him back. I said, well, did you want to do a part 3? Do you want to talk about, because you already talked about the clown. You were going to talk about the alien abduction that went on there. Because some of the people from the Shoshone end of the reservation, because there's the Arapaho and then the Shoshone, they had said that they were having abductions. And I actually was able to interview somebody who she talked about it. She didn't want to come out publicly and talk about it. So I met her, and she introduced me to another woman who's a white lady named Gail. And both of them had been hanging out. They went to the casino. Well, they worked there, and after they left the casino one night, they were abducted. So I thought that that's what this was about. And so I said, did you want to talk about the abduction, whatever? And this guy goes, no, but I know a friend of mine who lives on the Wind River Reservation. He's actually Arapaho, and he's like, and I can introduce you to him. And I'm thinking, what is that? I don't know who this is. So I looked at the name, and I realized that his name was Trey. I'm not gonna say his last name because I didn't ask if I had permission or not. And I thought, oh, I looked at it closely. I was like, that's not my cousin. This is another guy. But here is another guy named Trey who is talking about the Wind River Reservation, and just like, it was weird. Like, he started out talking about the clown that people see there. There's this clown that they see, right? I don't know what it is, but it's in and around the casino. But other people on the reservation have seen it. I think it's a demon that masquerades as a clown. That's what I think. But
Yeah.
it's weird that he was talking about that, and then he introduced me to this other guy, and I'm going to be talking to him on tomorrow. I'll be talking to him tomorrow about what he knows about these, what he calls fire demons. And that's interesting and it ties into the clown thing. But I was just like, that's weird, right? So my cousin Trey, who was on the Wind River Reservation for 4 years, like he worked there, hung out there, whatever, and worked on a ranch in Wyoming prior to that. He's always working ranches because that's what he does. He's a cowboy. And so he was on our show, and I thought that's who that was. But it turns out it's another guy named Trey who knows somebody from the Wind River Reservation. So you're kind of going like, wow, what are the odds? So that's a weird thing. That happens to me a lot. And like I'll be thinking about something, and then somebody will message me with a story along those lines.
Yeah.
Like that, we talked about this last night. Me, Anthony, and Nellie we were out on the patrol, and me and Anthony were pretty much working. Nellie was tagging along. She's still not feeling real good. Please send prayers for her. We're trying to get over this junk we got, whatever. But we talked about this, and I told my wife, I was like, I really believe there's some sort of an intelligence behind this. There's like a hand that's guiding us to hook up and meet. I really believe that. I'm not just joking. I'm not joking. I'm not just saying that. I think that there's something bringing us all together, and I think Mondays are pivotal now. So, I wasn't feeling real good today, and I was really just tired. I'm just wore out. And I thought, man, I just really don't want to do the show tonight. But then I got up and got going, and I was ready to go. I wanted to be here. And it always seems like Mondays kind of bring it all together.
Yep.
People come on and, we talk about all these weird things, and we get new people that'll come on and talk about the stuff that happens to them. And we get some weird stuff. We get vampires, minotaurs, like werewolves, and just all kinds of Bigfoot, ghosts, you name it. I mean, it runs the gamut. And we had, what was his name? He told us a story. Was it last week? King Groove, black guy. I forgot his name, his real name.
About Count Chocula.
Yeah, the thing that looked, well, the way he described it. But he told a story last week. What was it? The guy that turned into the tiger, like a cat.
Yes.
And we've had a guy from Florida on our show literally sit there and say that he had a man that turned into a pig. Like he witnessed it. He saw it. And it's just so crazy, man. We've had so many people here. We got another person here. What is that? Sugar. I'm not going to say that. What's going on, man? Welcome to the show. Are you there?
What's going on? Love your show, and yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm not going to say sugar, whatever, but I'll call you Sugar.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You whatever. As long as call me late for dinner, but yeah. I grew up ranching and seeing cattle, and like I said, I've seen what I was pretty sure is like think a Dogman, but it's pretty crazy, and people don't believe me, but
Well, I mean, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to tell us?
yeah, I mean, when you're out running cattle, I live out in Young County. Yeah, I mean, it's probably not a good story.
Well, I mean, all stories are good. It just depends. What county? Are you in Texas? Where are you at?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What county are you in?
Young County.
Young County. Okay, yeah.
Around Wichita Falls, Texas is pretty close to it. Yeah.
Wichita Falls is northwest Texas. It's up in the north. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm working through this, and I got a sense of humor, but yeah. Yeah. But
And Matt, hang on. Don't go anywhere, Matt, because I want to talk to you before you jump off. But
Yeah,
Sugar, go ahead and tell us.
I got a dog story. I got a couple quick dog stories, family dog stories. We're haunted by these things. We got a little Cherokee in our family. We're Cherokee on my dad's side, so.
So Sugar, tell us what happened to you. Were you out on the range when this happened, or what happened?
Yeah.
Were you on horseback?
Yeah. I would hunt a lot of coyotes and all that because, we had grew up doing cow calf, and coyotes will kill calves.
Mm-hmm. You worked them in pairs. Think you lost.
Yeah, I mean, ran bulls and on all my cows and all that, and so I'd go out there and varmint hunt a lot.
I think your sound is going out, Sugar.
And so, a lot of it was trying to. Yeah, it's probably not the best connection. I've never done this, but I anyways, long story short, something it was definitely. See, I'm just hearing an echo on that, but
yeah, I don't know. You're kind of fading in and out here.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but.
Well, Sugar, if you want, you can message me at Josh Turner. I'll put the banner on there.
Yeah. Okay.
Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com, and I can retell your encounter if you'd like, or you could come on yourself. We could picture audio a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just get in touch with
I've
me.
been following you for a while, and so, like I said, I got strong feelings on that. But anyways,
well, if you're out there and you're working pairs, let's put it that way. Let's say that's what you were doing, and you were running into one of these things. That would be a horrific experience because you're just out there, you, the horse, and unless you got a few punchers with you, which would maybe lessen the fear a little bit, but still, I wouldn't want to be out there, working and have something like that happen. So.
Yeah, well, I'm getting feedback from everybody, and I probably don't have my settings right. So, but yeah, I probably should just write it in. But I've seen some weird stuff.
Yeah. So, was it daylight? Did it happen in broad daylight? Did it happen at night? What time of year was it?
Oh, it was at night. I mean, I had a spotlight, and I mean, no, it was at night. You could spotlight varmints. I mean, you can't deer hunt like that. But
so you were okay. So you were deer hunting. So okay. So I'm going to let you run, but no. Just get in touch with me.
I'll just write it down.
Yeah, write it down and send it to me, and we can talk.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that, Sugar. You tried, but anyways. So. Matt, back to what you were saying, like when you were talking about being abducted.
Yes, sir.
It's a very weird thing because you're right. And now Friday, guys, you're not going to want to miss this. Friday, we interviewed Truth and Bass. We've had them on the show before on the live stream, but this is an in-depth conversation about the alien abduction phenomena. We all go into detail about what we think it is and what we feel and believe. We go over many high-profile cases that have gone on recently, and we are talking about the connection between that and all of this paranormal activity. I believe that it's all connected. I do. And I do believe if you are abducted or if you see a Bigfoot, you come within close proximity of these things. Two things happen that are just too obvious for me. If someone comes in close proximity to Bigfoot, a lot of times they will have other things that it triggers other types of phenomena. And in my book, I talk about this. There's different people's encounters, cases, and it is a weird phenomenon. And I think that the Bigfoot phenomena is something that is overlooked in the spiritual sense. But I do think that it plays a big part in I guess like the paranormal activity that takes place subsequently after like someone has these encounters. And I do believe too that some people get a sickness. Yeah, there's the book right there. They get an illness, and that on the cover, it was drawn by Sabella Irwin. That was Charles Hamill's creature that he saw at the dam there in Oklahoma. And I interviewed Charles.
So Wolf, you mean like sickness, like when you have a staring contest with a 9-foot dogman, and then all of a sudden within 2 weeks you have sepsis, staph A, staph B, and 2 types of antibacterial or antibiotic resistant flesh eating disease, like that sort of sickness?
Extreme. That is an extreme case. But look at Claudia Ackley. Okay. Take Claudia Ackley's case. Like she talked before she passed away. She said these things are going to kill me, and she passed away. There's still a lot of weirdness that surrounds her passing too. I've never really understood the way that she was found, and there's a whole lot of weird stuff. I'm not going to get into whatever, but she got very ill too. And there are people who encounter these creatures and they become ill. Like they get this nausea. There was a guy that was on our show. It's probably been 3 or 4 years now, but he recently got in touch with me, and I talked to his aunt about her encounter in Akron, Ohio. And it was weird because it was more akin to an abduction than anything else. She's driving along. She's with her best friend, who's now deceased. Had nothing to do with this, but they're driving along. They're 27 years old, both of them. Her friend was going to be 28 in 2 days. Get this. They see this bright light that's like a big ball of white in front of them. They, I guess, go unconscious is the only way you could say. Like they didn't wreck, but they pull over on the side of the highway, which is typically a busy highway there, but there was no one around. It was 1 a.m. And the next thing you know, they're running through the woods, and heading back to the car. It's 4 a.m. and there's this hairy, big, just for lack of a better term, a Bigfoot was chasing them. What the hell? So when she told me, that's all she remembers. There's nothing else to this case. I can't tell you other than there were big red eyes on this creature, and they just saw the silhouette of it through the woods. She can't remember. She's 38 years old now. It was 11 years ago. She can't remember what happened. It was 2014. Like that case there, like, what in the hell? You get a ton of these weird reports like this. And this was from an experiencer that had told us his story on the show years ago. What was that? Like, what chased this woman? And where was this? What was the bright light that she saw and the missing time? This is all into one case. And if you think, well, that's unusual, that's a weird one. No, it's not. That actually has happened to many people. They will have a missing time.
It happened to me.
Yeah, it happened to you. There's multiple people who have been abductees and then they've been chased by something running around in the woods. I would dare say, like, there was one case too. I still remember her name was Katie, or not her. It was Karen, and she was telling us a story that happened to her in Redwood Forest, California. She was hiking up there with her at the time boyfriend, and she ends up like running into this creature with really long limbs. Here's the weird thing about that, though. And she sees this bright light. Then she wakes up and it's like 2 a.m. It was 10 o'clock at night. She had gotten up to go to the restroom and they were in a tent, right? That story there, when I went back and looked at this, there was a waiter. And I'll never forget this. It was here in Austin at a restaurant overnight called Kirby Lane Cafe. And I remember there were like several of me and my guards that were there. And I had taken them out to eat because we had done the South by Southwest festival and it was ending. And so I'm going to take everybody out to eat. Let's go eat dinner. So everybody that was at the South by Southwest thing, we went, there was like 11, 12 people. And so I took everybody out to dinner and we were sitting there eating. And I'll never forget the waiter. He tells us this fantastical story of being out in Hawaii. My brother was there. Scorpion was there. I know Anthony was there. Tony was there. everybody was there, and this guy's talking about this weird creature that was walking around on its forearms, you know, kind of like a Bigfoot, but it was extremely long limbed. And he sees this white light. Well, he didn't say it was white, he said it was bright that came up behind this creature. And he doesn't remember anything. Him and his friends just remember like being back at their hotel. And it was just a weird story. Like, and I remember him telling that, and I'm thinking, what the hell was that? So when this woman, Karen, told me the same story that happened in the redwood forest, she said, I couldn't believe that there was this weird creature, kind of like something like Slender Man almost, but it had a really big body, but a really small head. And both of them, her and this waiter that was in Hawaii, he was just vacationing. If I remember correctly, I think he was vacationing, or maybe he stayed there. I don't remember, because like I think somebody, either one of his friends' dad was in the military, or maybe his dad. It's been years since he told us that story. I'm talking like 2016, 17. These stories, they parallel, and I remember them when she was telling me this, and I told her, I said, I've heard of this before. It was a guy from Hawaii. If you don't talk to people, you're never going to know. You know, like I talk to people at random all the time. I've talked to people on the phone. You know, I had a real estate agent recently talking to me, and he told me a weird, wild encounter that he had in San Marcos. And I was just like, holy crap, you know, just from talking to the guy on the phone. And I told him what I did, and and I said, well, I have a show and I own a security company. What's your show about? And I told him Paranormal, and we started talking, and he gave me this weird encounter. It happened recently, right after the flood. And I'm telling you, like, everybody's got a story. Something weird has happened. But there is an inordinately large number of abductees. Like Matt saying that he was abducted, it doesn't shock me at all that he's had these weird experiences and he was abducted. So were you, Dick. So is my wife. So is like a million other people that I've talked to. And that's always one of the questions that I ask all the time. And I tell them, have you seen anything when you were young that started, you know, whatever? That's always one of the questions. If you've been interviewed, but you know that. And then I'll always ask if they have been abducted. I mean, there's a series of questions that I always ask everybody.
Pretty sure it's weird like that.
And there are a lot of people who've been abducted.
You know, for me, not to interrupt here, but after this, all my life, after we'd see orbs, and my family's got a big history of this. Anyway, my aunts were, we used to call mountain witches. They do the charm the warts, the little spells and stuff, you know, the Appalachian things.
Mm.
And our family's plagued. We talk about dogs. We have the black red-eyed dog that comes to some people of our family. My dad saw it once in the middle of the trailer and put every gun he had in the window. My aunt and her original husband, they were paralyzed. They couldn't move. And this thing comes in as an old school 40s bed. The thing was taller than the bed. It came in on 4 legs, sniffed all around the bed, growling. And they was just like, they couldn't physically move. They was like literally like something had froze them to the bed. Thing sniffed around the bedpost, around the bed, on the bed, slinked into the other room. Jack gets up, grabs his shotgun, ghost, nothing there. And for minutes, he laid there just petrified while this thing stalked all around the bed. And my dad woke up and saw it once in the middle of the trailer. He said, I woke up, he was standing in the hall. He said it wasn't a dog. It was like, it looked like a dog, but it's completely black, red glowing eyes, and just lifted up his head and looked at him and just disappeared.
Mm.
About the owl real quick. Me and my father was hunting, and it's one of the earliest, I was a little kid, and this owl was on a branch. It was big. It wasn't just like a little, this thing was like, it seemed to me as a kid, it was like almost 4 foot. And my dad was like, we just stopped. And also my dad just says, shoot it, boy, open up. And he unleashed a full clip into this, or not clip, but emptied his slide action shotgun into it. And I emptied my 22 into it. And he said, run. And that's the last thing I remember about that experience. But I remember that owl and him like, shoot it, boy, and opening up and run. So why would he be afraid of an owl? You know, Why would he be afraid? Why would he unload on an owl? Why would he be afraid? And that's the only memory I have of that event, but it happened. Weird.
Well, Scott, welcome to the show. Scott might tell you why, because when you're on the show with Abe, you guys have been talking about the lechusas, the owls, quite a bit. Those,
It's weird. Oh, real quick, you're a security guy, right?
Yeah.
You might appreciate this. When I went to Canada before I got my clearances with the D&D, I was a security manager. I had about 100 guards under me, and we had this St. Vincent's and Elizabeth Briere Center in Ottawa, big Gothic hotels. And I'm getting the brief, and his new manager, and Pierre, who's the director, said, "Oh, one more thing, Matthew. I don't want to see no reports of ghosts on the security logs. We don't care.
I've heard that before.
We don't want to hear it."
Yeah.
I said, "All right." So we had one of my supervisors was named as Muhammad. We called him Smiley. You know, not a Christian. So I get his opinion. I said, "Hey, Muhammad, listen. You ever see anything in here?" He like looks left, looks right. He goes, "Matthew, I swear on my mother's head, the lady was drinking by the fountain. And she wasn't there because that was this lady would get up, go drink the fountain or stand near the fountain, I guess, and then go back to her room in the old section of the hospital. About everyone saw this chick at one point in the time." And yeah, so just don't write it on the report. Keep it to yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's
that is not actually far off from like maybe 5 or 6 different posts I've worked that have activity, and they'll tell you point blank if it's something weird, don't report it.
Yeah. Don't see nothing, don't say nothing, kind of, in a weird. Once as a kid, we had a snowfall in our yard. There was a single solitary footprint in the middle of the yard. It was like a human foot, with 3 clawed toes in front and 1 onto the side. And the night before, I could have swore I saw one eye staring at me from like a magnolia tree we had in that yard. All my life after this happened, these things would screw with me at one point or another. It just got to the point you get used to it,
There's nobody over there.
I can check.
We can go check because what the hell are they doing? There was only one vehicle in the parking lot earlier. I don't know what the.
But thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate it, man. I really do. I've been holding this. I don't really talk about this stuff because I don't have no clearances no more. I'm just an old dude. Who's going to believe me anyway? I've got screwed up in the head about bombing the Army. I'm TBI.
Well, Matt, if you want to, let me know. We can get together and maybe record or something. You speak well.
Oh, thank you.
That's good, and you have good audio. So those are kind of prerequisites if you wanted to record or something. Because I'm embarking on a series of recordings. I'm going to start dropping every Friday.
We got so much more from growing up in Appalachia, man. This is just the hint. Like when I had my first Bigfoot encounter by the Tater Knob Fire Tower, is a primitive weapons area.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad went back scouting for deer. He said, just kill you some squirrels, boy. Always kill you something, And I was in there, and I got back in the woods by that fire tower, and everything just got dirt dog quiet. And it's like every hair on my body stood up, and I could hear it more. Someone was like, "Go." I left. I got out of there, and I got to the car, and I looked back, and I could have swore. I mean, it's like not what I could see, but it was like doing that behind a tree. I didn't know what this was. It was kind of doing the peekaboo, but the rest of it I couldn't see. It was almost pixelated, kind of blending in with the vegetation. But I could just see like a kind of like a peekaboo looking out at me in the parking lot.
Yeah, because like a lot of these stories, that people come on the show and talk about on Mondays, they don't make it to the podcast, and I'd like to get more stories for the podcast, because most of the stuff that we're doing now is going behind the paywall. But I'd like to have at least one episode pre-recorded every week, and then put something for the pod people, because they're an audience too. There's a lot of them. It's shocking how many people don't listen to the YouTube. They just do the podcast. We have a huge following.
I know. I listened to it. I could delve in also Canadian take on this, because I got into the Canadian side of this up there really hard. And they had a lot of projects. They had something called come out of the University of Montreal called Project Theta. And they had to change the name to Project Second Story because someone else had claim of the name. And if you know a second story, man, it's someone that sneaks in your second story. And it was all really hush-hush. They had Project Magnet, which I've been on that facility before. Project Theta, Project Second Story. And Canadians really sneaky about some of the stuff. They had that thing I think it was Nova Scotia, one of the harbors up there, where they had one crash and actually went underwater. And then we had all the time sightings in Ottawa. Well, Dan Aykroyd's mother had a sighting on Spark Street, not even 3 blocks from I used to work at the embassy. And she just said she looked out her window and physically saw it going by her window down the Ottawa River. So there's a lot of stuff from that area.
Aykroyd is a big believer, big time.
He's been to our building before, actually. He's been to our building before. His mother worked right on Sparks, just 3 buildings from our embassy I used to work at.
So 3, just 1 second, Matt. 3 Hollow. Thank you for being patient. You want to speak?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
What's going on,
Josh? Quick question: is my mic okay? Is everything audio good?
Yeah, everything's good.
Cool. Okay. Is it better than Fry's? Sorry, no shade, Fry. Just
Fry's like smiling at you. I'll get you later.
I'm no longer in my car, so the audio is better.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
So 3 Hollow, what do you got for us?
Okay, I've had a few experiences over my life. Sorry if I'm a little shaky. I'm a little nervous being on here, but
don't be. There's nobody important here but me.
But I'm still a kid.
Why? That's gonna be a sound bite. They're gonna be like, he said he's the most important, and all his guests suck. He's a horrible person.
Realistically, I'm still a kid. I mean, I'm 19, but I've had a few things happen to me. What kickstarted this all? I was 14. It was 2021, if I believe, May 22nd, I think. And I was just walking. I had snuck out. I was with my friend. It was like 2 a.m. And we were by a local park and just walking home. And if you can visualize walking up a hill, and there's a road to your left, and it comes up to meet you. So it's just it's like a Y, and you're walking down the Y. So there's as I'm walking from the left side of the road, on all fours is at first I think it's like a fox or something. I couldn't tell you. And this all happened within maybe 5 or 6 seconds, but my brain for the first maybe you guys know this all too well, but for the first few seconds you don't really pick up anything or process what's happening. It walks all the way on all fours, all the way from the left side of the road to the right side of the road. And I don't really think too much of it. Because it's really quick how this happens. And it stands up on 2 legs and walks to the middle of the road and a few steps towards me and my friend. I forgot to mention if I had a friend with me. And he's walking to my left a few steps in front of me. And like I said, it only happened like maybe 5-7 seconds. And my first thought, honestly, is, hey, maybe, I'm sneaking out as a kid, I shouldn't be out. Maybe this is just a drunk guy. My first thought was, all right, well, I can't, he already sees me. I see him. I can't just hide from him. So, but then my brain starts to like kick in and I'm like, wait, it was like crawling on all fours. And I start to replay, like what I saw. And first thing, I grabbed my friend by his shoulder and we run down an adjacent street.
Mm-hmm.
And we run all the way back after, be like, what, freaking out. And you didn't get to see it as much as I did. It was, I'm 5'10", probably about, I was probably around 5'8", 5'7". It was a little shorter than me. I couldn't tell you how tall it was. But it was a bipedal, like a humanoid, all black. But what was weird about it is, like, I knew it wasn't a human, like, or, at least my soul was telling me that. Because when you looked at the limbs of this creature, whatever it was, the limbs were about as thin as a bone, I would say. And it looked like it was wearing very raggedy torn up garments. I couldn't really tell what it was wearing, like maybe a hooded figure. I couldn't tell if I could almost like maybe see through it at parts, like if it was rotting. But I do remember a small strange detail. It all over its body was small metallic like glints, like almost, I don't know, maybe like a Terminator that was like covered in mud, I guess you could say. I don't know what that was, and I don't know at the time. The first thought, skinwalker. You're a kid, you're kind of first getting into, you hear stories or whatever. Everything's a skinwalker at first, but I don't know. It could have been anything. I've given way to, because I'm in Western Pennsylvania, and there's witches. Maybe it was somebody was doing necromancy, and maybe I did see a skeleton just walking about, but that was kind of what shot me into this whole thing. Like once I saw that, you can't really unsee it, and I don't know what that is, and that's not. It doesn't make me feel very comfortable knowing that thing could just. It was it was coming out of the woods into a town, just a small town. So it's like it wasn't walking around just in the woods. I mean, I bet it was, but it's just in like a regular neighborhood. But that's sort of how I got into this. I've had I don't know, Dick Richards, you said something about doppelgangers. I've had a couple of those, which that's a disturbing thing. I can't say I've had a ton, but I have had my friends in my house when like I'm home alone or in my yard, and I'll turn because I'll see them in my eye, in my peripheral vision, but there's no one there. I'll hear them talking. It's definitely a phenomenon going around.
That's a scary thing. My friend saw mine, and it looked at or saw something that she said was me, and then it looked at her and stepped out of view, and then I walked in from the back room, and I thought she was gonna have a heart attack. That poor girl.
Yeah, well, for obvious reasons. I mean, she saw you.
Amazing. Amazing.
She thought it was the end.
She's like, "This is the end."
She saw those beady Canadian eyes and thought, "This is it for me."
How many times that happened? 3 Hollow.
The people like
where you saw the other people that you thought were your friends, and then they weren't there.
Thankfully, not too many times, but enough that I keep my ears and eyes perked like at all times, just because you can't worry about it all the time, but
no, and things. Here's something I got to say about hauntings and encounters and things like that. I always tell people it's not the Amityville Horror. It's not like a movie, 2 hours, and it's like they act like there's been a month of just nonstop stuff happening. It doesn't work like that. Like it comes in spurts, and then you go back to your life and you live like as normal as you can, and then stuff happens. You know what I mean? I was talking to someone the other day. Oh shit! I was supposed to call somebody back today. It just hit me. But I was talking to another researcher, YouTuber, the other day, and we were talking about, interviewing people, and we were comparing notes. And I told this person, I said, this person had some stuff happen to them, but they have a normal life outside of this, like I do. And you go back into that normal life, and then you put this stuff behind you for however long, and then you go do what you have to do. But you could be doing something as innocuous as eating in a restaurant and go into the restroom and know that something is there. Be washing your hands. And this didn't happen to me, but I know somebody that it did. And they look up and they see something demonic or weird standing behind them in the mirror.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, that kind of stuff just happens. And it's like when you least expect it, something happens. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've interviewed people who had weird stuff happen. And
When
there's
I
no
lived in
way.
London, in Massachusetts, when I was a kid, I was living in Miranda, same place where I saw the Minotaur, basically, but I was like in the middle of town. And just one day I was washing my hands, right? I'm living in an apartment building. It's called Eden Rock Apartments. If you ever interested to look it up or whatever. But I'm just washing my hands. All of a sudden, all my hair stands up. Okay, I have like there's a roar, like a loud noise coming from the hallway, and all of a sudden, I'm in two places at once. I'm looking at myself in I don't even know how to explain it, but I was the thing coming at myself, and I flew into my
Somebody's
own
audio
head.
is really bad. I hate to interrupt you, Morgan, but somebody's audio is bad. Like there's a feedback.
Yeah, it sounds like they're like
Water
they're
or
underwater or something. Like you're in Bikini Bottom or something.
Bikini Bottom.
If you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind,
Yeah, just mute your
yeah.
things, and then when you go to speak, just unmute it. That's
Yeah.
why it's very simple, and that would be so.
Okay, so I was basically in two places at once, and then all of a sudden, as soon as I hit like my head, I was back inside my body. All of a sudden, music starts playing from my mom's room, which is locked. The song UB40's Red Red Wine just starts blaring, and it scared the ever-living shit out of me. Like, I just ran out of the house and sat on the stairs for like 8 hours till my mom came home. It was bad. But
Yeah,
we went
living in a house like that is terrifying.
We went and looked in her room after we opened the door, looked at the radio. The radio had no batteries in it. The cord was wrapped around it, but the tape, the Red Red Wine single, was in the tape deck. So
here's another tidbit, and if you haven't joined the Patreon, tomorrow's episode will be a good reason to join. If you haven't joined, and I'm going to plug it right now, I'm going to tell you. When you play, let's put it this way: when you play with a Ouija board, and you're finished playing with it and you go on with your life, you think that's it. But that's not it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever's you're gonna see, or it can find you. It can find you, and it could be at a time where you're just driving out into the country with your friends and something shows up. And it can attach itself to you and then appear and disappear and reappear. That's what tomorrow night's episode on Patreon is. This guy, Billy, I mean, in talking to him during key points, I could tell that it was terrifying, but it's a lesson too, to not dabble and play with and mess with things like that, because he had no idea, as a 16-year-old that this kind of stuff could cause what it did. And I am of the opinion that it had everything to do with what happened to him. But it was a cryptid, I guess you could say, and then that it appeared and it didn't just go away because he just because he wanted it to. It wreaked havoc and caused all kinds of hell. And as far as I know, he's still dealing with it to this day. I mean, he worked, I don't know if he still is, but he used to work at a convenience store overnight. And this thing stalked him where he was working. He was in the back dumping mop water and something came. And it was like, it all started with him and his friends just goofing around, having fun, playing with a Ouija board. And who would have thought, because you opened the door. I mean, Morgan, what you're talking about, how you had to go outside, and I have heard that so many times. And in the house that I used to live in, and my brother's finally back out at the ranch. The assignment we had here is over, so he's back there now. And he's gotten back to writing on the book. He's about halfway done. And I think that what's going to happen is we're probably going to release that one in the vampire book, kind of like boom, boom. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for. This thing that was in our place, and I say thing, it was more than just one thing. It would do the same. Like there would be people who rented a room from me, and I would come home and they would be outside, terrified not to go, they didn't want to go inside. And they would be like, hey man, I don't want to do you wrong and bounce, but I I can't live like this, you know. And I was understanding. I was like, yeah, I get it. You know, most people can't, you know. It would come and go, but if anybody was there by themselves, you were a target. You were targeted because that is what it did. It wanted to isolate people and it wanted to attack and create fear. You generate less fear when you're around people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're there by yourself and you feel like you're helpless, whatever, that's when these things would pounce, you know. Because they tried it with me. I got so I think I just got desensitized. I got so used to it. I could just sit there and play video games and there would be knocking on the wall. I would ignore it. I'm sure now looking back on it, like it was probably not the most healthy thing to do to just, you know, but I mean, you become accustomed to it. You know, I mean, I lived in a couple haunted houses when I was a child, and I would definitely be affected because I could see and hear things that other people couldn't. But when you compare notes, you know, you're not crazy. It's there. I mean, like whatever is happening is there. There's just not a lot you can do about it. When you get older, you realize the power that you really have. You don't understand the power that you really do possess. And that is the power of Christ, of the Holy Spirit and God.
Amen.
And you can rebuke and renounce these things in the name of Christ. And that's the thing we talked about with Truth and Bass. Not it won't be on Friday's episode, but the 2 weeks from Friday, that'll be the conclusion. And we talked about that. You know, like you feel helpless. There's nothing you can do. But there is something you can do. There really is. And I sound like a broken record when I talk about this, but I stand by it. And I've had other people mock me and other people say I'm crazy and whatever. I don't care what these people, who gives a crap? Their opinion is worth a fresh bucket of hamster vomit. I can tell you this, the power that is in the name of Christ can do a lot. And it can stop a lot of this. But there is this fear that some people get when they go to say it. And it's like something is threatening them not to say it. And I've heard this with Dogman, Bigfoot, all these different types of spiritual demon encounters, whatever, because the thing's trying to stop you from doing it. Why is it trying to stop you from doing it? Because it knows that when you do it, you're protected and that its power is gone. And, you know, the power of Christ has thwarted these beings for a long time. So there's a hatred there. Right? So whenever you see someone who has an aversion to Christ, I'm not talking about aversion to Christians because a lot of Christians are they're not really Christ-like. They just go around saying it. And so yeah, what I'm talking about is someone who doesn't want to hear about Christ at all, and they become rabidly, just angrily, aggressively against it. There's a demonic presence there, a demonic force that's telling them, hey, react this way because it doesn't want to be covered in the blood of Christ, which can literally stop 90% of this. Now, I think the rest of it, maybe 10%, I think it's a low number, really. It's just a general psychosis that somebody may have, but even that creates a spiritual opening that can open you up to who knows what. That's my opinion. And some people can mock it and they can argue and they can think that I'm being self-righteous. I'm anything but self-righteous. I'm the first person to tell you I'm a sinner. We all are. Nobody has the right to tell you you're a bad person and I'm better than you, because you're not. You're not. But it is our job to try to bring to you the knowledge, because Jesus says we die without it, with lack of it. It's what's killing us. The cult of ignorance. It always leads to the cult of death. All throughout history, ignorant people making rules and killing innocent people. So what happens? And those people are an inadvertent blood sacrifice to these demons. It happens all the time. And people don't put two and two together. And as long as everything stays compartmentalized and nobody gets together and starts talking and asking questions, things are going to stay that way. But that's why things like this show and the conference that the Bonds and Booze ladies put on with multiple friends of mine, Tex and BMR, Monica Rollins, they were all there. And I think I applaud them. I think it was a great thing. I'm glad that they went through with it and they did it. Crossing realms, bringing everybody together from the UFO field, the ghost community, the Bigfoot, community, I think it's important. And I think that those things need to keep happening because that is how you get all these collaborations and people working together. Now, you have people in this community that are absolutely abominable people. They don't care about right, wrong, or indifferent, nothing. They just want to destroy for whatever their vendettas are, whatever their reasons. I don't care. I don't give a damn. I'm done trying to figure it out and asking the questions why. They have a million reasons. Not one of them is good. And there's a pack of people who are going to always be the way that they are. There's nothing you can do to change that. Nothing. You can pray. You can pray. But the best thing you do is stay away from them and pray that God protects you and delivers you from them and from the evil. These are the same kinds of people that attacked Christ for speaking the truth. So when we're getting to the bottom of it and we're doing what we do here, of course it's agitating them because their demons are being agitated. You know,
I mean, look at it now. I've never seen so many people be openly evil in my life. They're just like celebrating death, and it's ridiculous.
It is. Hey, Wolf, I got something for you real quick. If you got a second here. My fiance's from the Philippines, and when I first went to the Philippines, we had an Airbnb, and they had changed this house around. Now, the first night I was in this house, I noticed something, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to say nothing. Well, me, her, and her mother all noticed something about this house. And when it finally came to a head, she sent me a text from upstairs, says, I don't want to sound crazy, but something just grabbed me. I was like, I don't want to sound crazy, but I thought I saw something run through the kitchen. And her mother's like, I didn't want to sound crazy to all of you guys because I didn't know how your culture was. Because here we're pretty religious, but I got a bad feeling we should just leave this place. We left that Airbnb. And when I come back to the States, she was at her house. And they got a laundry room. They do laundry separate. It's different there. She was in her laundry room and the door shut and locked in like 100+ heat. She couldn't open it. She couldn't breathe. She started getting stifled. Her family had to break the door open and drag her out. And that thing followed her because at our next apartment, the refrigerator would open, the water would break, and all kinds of things started happening. So they brought the priest in. And then they did a complete blessing, and they put cups of salt in the entrance to all the doors, to all the rooms. And so when we went to a new apartment, before we even moved in, they had the apartment blessed, and they put like cups of salt, like coarse salt, in the entrance, like a Jewish would do a mezuzah, whatever.
Yeah,
every entrance to the room had a cup of salt in the corner to help ward off whatever it was that followed her from that Airbnb.
What part of the Philippines do you know?
This was in Appalachia. This is outside Clark Air Base in Angeles. I got an apartment there. I'm there half time, and it's a really nice area. But there's a lot of stories like that from this area. There's so much suffering. I was thinking that when they changed that house to split it up into Airbnbs, it pissed something off. Because where I was seeing it was where that kitchen was. You could see the locks. They added on an extra section out back. And that's where all the activity seemed to be coming from, was that add-on section.
What year was that? Do you remember?
This year.
Wow, so you were just there recently.
Yeah, recently. I'm there about every 2 or 3 months. I'm there. I'm going back in October, but this was like January, February when it first happened. And we've had like 3 encounters like that. With that Airbnb, and like a new induction heater for a stove also would just spark and go out. The bathroom sink fell off the wall. The cabinet doors would fall off. The water pipe would shoot off. The refrigerator. When I said, what do you got that thing? She actually put a bungee cord to hold the refrigerator door and the freezer door in place, because she was like, Matt, I'm sitting here. I just saw the freezer open. And so when I got back to the apartment, she actually had the things physically bungee corded to keep whatever it was from opening the refrigerator on her. So that's,
the elemental spirits are what the witches and warlocks use to bind to stuff. Like that's what my understanding is. A lot of these hauntings are these elemental spirits. They have, because they're actually spirits of the very elements themselves, they have this strange ability to attach and to bind to people and to items and to things. And I believe that's what a lot of these poltergeist activities are, that these things will attach themselves to somebody, whether they also have the ability to possess, but like they'll attach to somebody or basically follow them around. And that's what's making like the fridge door open. That's what's making the like you said, the cupboard doors fall off. That's what's ripping the sink off the.
Yeah, this thing was fixed. Now, when we got to the new place, also a reason a lot of the stop was the people before us was real religious. And when it first started happening, I rebuked in the name of Christ as to leave this family alone. The new place has grottos where there was strong Catholics and families. So they have like a Mother Mary Jesus grotto and built in the walls of the house. You go out to the garden, there'd be like grottos. They used to put candles and stuff there and worship. But yeah, they put salt and blessed that house before we even moved in, and so far it's been very quiet in the new place. You know, we hope it stays that way.
Gotta watch out for that Mother Mary, because it's the goddess Sophia, and anytime it's in the wall like that, it's the goddess of the grove. So it's actually an ancient pagan ritual that the Catholic Church has just taken and inverted and sort of made it holy. But yeah, that's
They're actually Baptists. They're actually Baptists, or my fiance. They're all actually. I thought it was funny when I moved. Oh, they're actually Baptists. I thought they'd be Catholic, but they're Baptist. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have the grotto with the Mary in the wall, and the garden.
Yeah, and it's a very large. The Philippines is very divided. Like, I mean, it's a series of islands. I mean, it's not all the same. There's a bunch of different islands, and it depends on where you're at. And those different islands can be as different from one another as like even more pronounced than our states. Like there are different.
Yeah.
Like in the South, there's like this Muslim stronghold down there. And in the North, which is where Clark Air Force Base is, it's a whole different, you know.
That's where I'm near. I'm near
Yeah,
Clark.
and Clark is in the north. It's in the Northwest, and then the reason it's up there is because it's a jumping off point. You know, during the Korean War and of course, you know, Vietnam, it was used as a staging area. And the Philippines was fought heavily over during World War II. It was very important as a jumping off point for the Japanese. They wanted it.
Mhm.
But it is a collection of islands. And if you talk about certain things, I know like one of the most common creatures is this vampire called the Oswing, but it's not found in every region. And then where you're at, there is a heavy Baptist influence, but there's also Mormon in the east, and then there is like Catholic in the south, or further south, and then like further south, it's Muslim.
We have Pentecostal also. There are
Pentecostal too, yeah. And the languages like Tagalog is very, you know, common, but not in every region. And Spanish is spoken predominantly throughout the island, especially in the north, because that's where King Philip had this. That's why it's called Philippines. The Spanish fought a war to take it over. So there's a very interesting history. There's a lot of different islands there, and I have interviewed multiple people from the Philippines. I have a following in the Philippines because we talked about the Philippines early on, and Anthony and I actually interviewed a guy at the gym who claims that a vampire, like a real vampire, tried to drag him and his brother. They were twins. Actually, I think they're triplets, right?
Yeah.
But two of them got attacked, and he was trying to save his brother, and he was being dragged through a window. And it was crazy. He told us this at the gym at Big Tech's where we used to work out. And
stories up then when I'm over in October.
No, yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff there. Another weird place is Taiwan. I've interviewed multiple people from there. Just crazy stories about spiders and just all kinds of stuff, man. I mean, I could tell you story after story from all these different places, and having friends from Hong Kong and from Korea and all over the world, it helps. And I trained with a lot of these guys years ago when I kickboxed. There's a strong kickboxing culture there too. I mean, it's not like Thailand, obviously, where it came from, but a lot of those Southeastern Asian countries, the Thailandese fighting style like spread out. So there's Laotian, there's Vietnamese and Cambodian, and they all put their own spin on it, you know. And Philippines is no different. But there are people that live in those islands, especially the islands out to the west, to the middle of the west. There's like a little string of islands there. And those people have never been to any of those other islands. They've never been to the mainland. They just live like jungle people. They're just there. And the government doesn't even mess with them. They're just like, okay, leave them alone. Because it's nothing but trouble, you know. So, Fry, did you want to say something else before we bounce here?
See, one of the other experiences was a bit more, was a different than what I think most people would have heard. There's one time when I was 14, I went on vacation, and we had this guy watch our animals, because I used to have a kennel with the dogs. And the entire time I was away from home, it felt like something was wrong at home. If you've ever had that feeling before. And
yeah.
one time we stopped at a motel just for the night, and I fall asleep, and then and I had this dream where I woke up in my driveway, and it was nighttime in the dream, and say one of the dogs was in not so good of a condition. Keep it clean. But it rested its head at my foot. And when I looked up from where it was crawling from, I saw the I was kind of golden yellow eyes and like these crooked, jagged teeth, like smiling at me from like over the fence in the trees. And then I had this rage kind of build up inside me in the dream. And before I could attempt to charge at whatever that was, I woke up. And when the vacation ended and we returned to our home, I found that same dog in the same condition as it was in the dream, just in a different location.
That's weird. Well, guys, it's been real. I got to go because I got to go to work, and this sucks. I'm shorthanded right now, and it's been hard. I was up till 6 a.m. working tonight, doing my taxes, and got up and just got right back to work. And now I got to go to work, and I got to do the show and whatever. Tomorrow night, the Patreon. It's going to be a story about a Minotaur, and it's going to be a good one. Not good for the person that it happened to, but they opened the door. Yeah, and then we have another one coming out on Thursday. I believe that's a Dogman encounter. I think, is that what that is?
Yeah.
So, and that'll be for members only. Now, here's the thing about the Patreon. Some people are asking me about the Patreon. They're not able to get in and watch the show on the Patreon. Do you want to explain that to them real briefly?
Yeah, so the Patreon episodes, like the only way to watch those is to go directly to our Patreon page and sign up. They're uploaded to our YouTube channel, but you're not going to be able to go to the YouTube channel itself and watch the Patreon only episodes. You can only find them if you go to our Patreon page, and you'll see them on there. You just click play, you play it like you would any other YouTube video, except it's on Patreon. That's the only difference.
Yeah. So Jessica says, be careful, Josh, bring a gun in case there's a Dogman in the apartment. Yeah, we have to go deal with that and sweep that apartment, and I think we'll be okay. I'm hoping. But if anybody gets any ideas, because I had somebody the other day, they're from Louisiana, and they were like, the vampires, they all hang out in the city and the werewolves are all out in the country. I said, no.
Yeah, right.
Vampires are in the country and werewolves are in the city. Doesn't matter. It is what it is. I don't know why people seem to think that. I guess they think that, but the weird thing about Austin in this area too is like, if you could drive 15 miles out of Austin, you're in the middle of nowhere. Like, you will just be in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, I have somebody who's a friend of mine, and I've tried to get him for years to get on and tell this story, but I guess it's embarrassing. But he got out to take a leak. I've done this, and something grabbed him. He rolled like sideways with it. It jumped off of him. And then when he pulled out his firearm, because he's one of those people, I don't just get out to take a leak holding the gun. He's that way. It's always been that way. He waves it around and looks, and there's nothing there. It's just like moving slowly over the pasture. I can't say that it was flying the way he told me. He just said it was like it was floating really fast. He didn't see wings flapping or anything. And he asked me what that could be. It was years ago, like in 2010. And he's always asked me what I thought it was. And I was like, how far away were you? He goes, I could see the skyline of Austin. And you just go out there and there it is. There's something there. But like I tell people, it could happen in the city limits too.
The thing he saw was like a humanoid?
He couldn't tell. He couldn't tell. His name's Robbie. I'll just tell you. I'll give you his full name. Robbie. I'm not gonna do it. Put him on the spot. He's on Facebook. I can tell you, go look him up, aggravate him. But he believes that it felt like arms, but he didn't feel legs or anything else. And it grabbed him. His girlfriend was there, but she was on the phone talking to her sister. And they were heading back out to Manor, is where they were at. So they were right outside the city limit. You could see the skyline still. And he said that it grabbed him. He rolled, and then it flew over a pasture. And he said he could see this black like shape moving. The way he described it kind of was like a manta ray. Now, here's a weird thing. When I was working doing security, they were building a Lowe's in South Austin near William Cannon. And I'll never forget it. It was at the old ranch. I forgot the name of the people. Those people. What were their names? It's a Hispanic people. They had a ranch there where they built that Lowe's. The old ranch house was still there when they were building it.
What was their name?
Not Robles. It was something else. Robledo or something. I don't know. Anyway, that was their names. I can't remember the name. You might want to look it up because there was a big ranch right there. All that right there was ranch. It was Sunset Valley. And there was an old ranch house at the end of that road. And they built literally, it was sad. They built like a parking lot, and then they built all these shopping centers, all this stuff around those people's land. And then when the old man passed away, his children sold. And then they left the old farmhouse there and they incorporated it into a shopping center.
Yeah.
But on the other end was the Hispanic people's ranch. I can't remember the name of it. It was right there on Brody Lane. But I literally saw something like that go by my window. So when I had told him about it, I said, yeah, I saw something like that a long time ago. It's not the Hernandez Ranch for Eastern. That's up in the hill country. That's way further, 40-something miles. No, that I don't know what that was, but I would imagine that's what it kind of looked like, what he was describing, what Robbie was describing. I don't know. I teased him for years because he's a weightlifter like me. He's a big guy, but he's always been kind of melodramatic, you know? Like if he gets stung by an ant, he had ants crawling all over him and they were killing him, you know? It's like, so, but I do think, you know, he did see something because his girlfriend, he screamed, his girlfriend got out of the truck and saw that thing going over the pasture. So something grabbed him that felt human, but when it got off of him, it flew and it was just like a flat. So I think this thing shifted, you know, maybe it was something like, I don't know.
You ever hear those like sky whale things?
Yeah. I mean, there are people who claim that they see things like that floating, moving around, you know, and there are people who have second sight that claim one of the people where I used to do a security job at, he was a gypsy. He swore up and down that his daughter could foresee the future. Now, this is a weird story. Real quick here. So we had this guy working for us. I can't remember his name. Started with an L. Oh yeah, I don't want to say his name. He was kind of a prick. But that woman predicted. She goes, in 2 years, you're going to have a really bad car wreck. You're going to almost die. Like she said that to him.
Thanks.
And he did in Missouri.
Oh, messed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you meant she meant that to you.
No, she didn't tell me that. No. She didn't say anything like that to me. He wanted her to predict my future and stuff. And I got along with the guy, but I told him, I said, nah, we're not doing that. I don't want to know. And I said, is there good or bad? And she was like, I kind of joking. And then I said, don't tell me, but she blurted it out. She said both. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, do you want details? She's like, I have to sleep on it tomorrow. And she gave me this weird flower to put under my pillow. And then she was going to tell me in the next day. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I gave it back to her. So I don't want that. I'm not going to do any of that. I don't need to know.
Yeah, it sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah, it was a bad idea. But that guy that I worked with, he was very skeptical. But after he had problems with those Roma people, the apartment that they gave us to use the restroom and eat our lunch and all that started having all kinds of weird stuff, to the point where my nephews, Anthony, Zane, Tony, none of them wanted to work and be in that apartment because we kept hearing noises and stuff. And I was in there one time talking to Zane, and I heard like a clapping noise. I'm like, what the fuck? So I thought it was like somebody in there, so I went in the next room thinking, maybe there's somebody there that we didn't, there was nobody in there.
Yeah, kind of like your studio.
Yeah. I mean, there's just weird stuff, I want to get out of here. This whole area, there's just this where I'm at too. There's some bad element right here. And I just, nothing like, that's going to hurt me, but I just might try to break into my car or something. And, we're going to be leaving here soon. So I'm happy.
Good.
But so folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. We got Fry, Matt, Lawrence, 3, Hollow, Chaplain Tony, Scott, Richards, everybody. Richard, stick around and talk to you, but everybody else, I'm going to bounce you. So thank you for tuning in, guys. Matt, be sure and get in touch with me. And also Morgan, too. I want to record both you guys.
Also got new tattoos in the Philippines. Can't see them.
Oh, wow.
Like
all right, glad. I'll see you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Wolf.
See you guys.
And so, Richard, we'll talk. I'm going to let everybody run, and then we'll talk. Let's play it out here, guys.
There's no place for old men, a breed going extinct, as the youth coddles each other, and love appears to be in the air. Breeze singing and trees living, a time of generations dying. The sea is full, yet so many are falling. Born to die in neglect, with their unaging intellect. Two ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go. I shall transcend this life so bold. How age makes a man invisible. He wanders alone, tattered as his clothes. Forgotten soul finds song in his heart. Monuments of magnificent, the seas have taken me to Byzantium. Two ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go. I shall transcend this life so bold. Sages standing in holy fire, spiraling as the masters of my soul sing. Desire overwhelming, don't deny but consume my heart. I know not what it is. Take me to eternity and unknown things. Two ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go, and I shall transcend this life so once free from this body, I'll never come back again. Not to this place I'll be where goldsmiths work. to entertain the lords and ladies of Byzantium. It matters not what is the past, or what is passing, or is to come.